Hello and welcome back to another episode of Oh So Curious times DCU Daily. We will do our best to not actually drop off towards the end of the show. That happened last week due to some technical difficulties, but I think we figured it out, and we will put the stuff that you guys missed last week on the channel. I think we were talking about Wicked and Gladiator 2, which are coming out in a few days. So today, however, we have to review a movie that goes by the name Red One, but it doesn't look like it's going to be making a lot of money at the box office. And the reviews have been fairly unkind. So we're going to talk about that. We also have, of course, news from James Gunn. James Gunn spent a lot of time on social media answering fan questions. So whenever that happens, of course, we have to talk about that. So we're going to get into that as well. We also have a ton to discuss from the world of the MCU, because there's, of course, a new synopsis for Fantastic Four that we got to get into. That synopsis was very interesting. It kind of hints at a little bit more about what the movie is going to be like. Marvel is also, looking to scale back their production schedule after next year. Kevin Feige has been talking about that. Bob Iger has mentioned it in the past. They want to focus on more quality over quantity. So we're going to get into that. And of course, so much more. So before we do that, of course, we're going to hit that intro and get the show started. All right. Well, here I am. I'm back. I'm on the screen. Usually I have my co-hosts with me. Oh, there they are. Hello, Liz and John. How are you guys doing today? I'll start with you, Liz. How was your weekend, and what are you looking forward to this week?
I worked, so weekend was sucky, but I'm looking forward to, I have my ticket for Red 1, I have my ticket for Wicked, I just got my ticket for Gladiator 2, which means at some point I need to watch the first Gladiator, but I'm happy to report to all of our fans out there, I have watched the entire first season of Peacemaker. I am totally a fan, love it, can't wait for season 2. That's the latest update I just wanted to share with everybody. So feeling funky. Here we go.
That's awesome. You know what? And it's kind of the perfect time, because James Gunn had something to say about the finale of Peacemaker, which we will get into later in the show. We got DCU Daily coming up, of course. But before we do, I want to ask John, how was your weekend? What are you looking forward to this week? Did you get about to seeing any movies last week, or was it more of a stay-at-home kind of?
Just the one we're reviewing soon enough. But, I mean, I'm trying to catch up on 2024 movies. I started one earlier today, but I couldn't finish it because I had to finish a video, so I had to do that. And then, it's mostly been kind of boring weekend, a little bit of a boring day, but that's okay. We roll with the punches here, and we can continue on.
Exactly. Rolling with the punches is actually a very, very good choice of words, because we do have to talk about the punches that were thrown or not thrown over the weekend at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So we're gonna get into that next on the news. So yeah, let's do that.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number 2.
Right, Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without this.
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Cole's.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow! Wow!
As much as we talk about that the Joker Folly You Do clip has not aged well, I think the slap is aging like fine wine.
I was just going to say the slap needs to go. Maybe we should replace it with Jake Paul, the Mike Tyson footage. I don't know.
You know what? Maybe
I feel
we
like
will.
At some point, Will Smith is going to send you a cease and desist. Like, he's over it. The world's over it. We've moved on. There's other things happening.
And you know what I'm going to respond to him? I'm going to be like, keep my show's name out of your fucking mouth. And that's gonna be my response. Speaking of which, before we get into the news, I've got to say that, my standard, campaign that I've been running now since the finale of the Penguin. Fuck the Penguin. And with that said, let's move on with the news. So
Oh my
we have
God,
to.
you're so bitter.
I always will be. It's like, as John says, it's not like he's a villain.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh no, Dan, you froze. Oh no.
Anyway,
well, he's got the fuck the Penguin. I'm gonna start rocking my Harvey Dent is a dick shirt. So
yeah.
you need to.
And
do
I'm gonna have a Harley Quinn can go to hell shirt, and then
There you
we'll all
go.
just like hate our own
Perfect.
respective
Be a little gang.
villains. But yeah, Tom Cavanagh, his Superman and Lois role was finally revealed during the episode. I don't know why this is huge. If it was revealed like a couple days ago, it's like it wasn't. It was today, because the episode was today, and we'll get into that later on. But he was finally revealed. Now, I had a couple theories on who he was going to be. I thought he was going to be like Jack Ryder or something when I was watching the very beginning. I'm like, oh, okay, Jack Ryder, we could introduce Creeper. But
Right.
oh no, so we were talking about, when I was watching the episode, I'm like, oh, what are they gonna do with because I totally forgot that Tom Cavanagh was going to be appearing in this episode and directing it. I was like, oh, what are they gonna do? And spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't seen the episode, and I will, I'll let you know my thoughts later on, but he actually played Gordon Godfrey, aka Glorious Godfrey, who is a new god. And he has his human alias is someone on Earth as a human. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
You know what? I'm telling you.
It's Will Smith.
It's either Will Smith or it's the Penguin. I can't tell what it is, but somebody got to me. It's just, now they're just literally not even hiding it. They're just cutting off my internet. That's
Ron
so
quoted
messed up.
Mr. Freeze for you. Mr. Freeze got Dan. Stay cool, bird boy. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm bad. I'm back. It's okay. Sorry, you guys were having a conversation.
Well, we were talking about, the news, just this news of, Tom Cavanagh. He played Glorious Godfrey in the episode. And I thought that was an interesting way to take it. Because this Superman has barely dealt with Lex Luthor. He's barely dealt with like huge, like life-ending things, with the exception of like season 3. Well, obviously these past 3.5 seasons, but it's mostly like, but the fact that they brought in like, even if it's just a reference, it's not the actual like, it's not the actual character. They still brought in the Glorious Godfrey, which was definitely an interesting little thing to take it. I will say it was nice to see Tom Cavanagh again, even though he like swore off the Arrowverse like 6 different times. And he's like, I'm never coming back. Fuck this shit. And then he always comes back. So nice to see him. I thought he did a good job in the episode. He definitely had HR energy. So who was his like one of the many variants of Harrison Wells in the Flash, which I think that was the version in season 3, because that was Savitar.
It was early on.
Yeah, so he definitely played like kind of like annoying douchebag, which is definitely the Gordon Godfrey / Glorious Godfrey character. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Like, it was nice to see that, and there was like a nice little subtle connection to the New Gods. If it is actually, because I mean, they could just take the name Gordon Godfrey and just use that. It doesn't have to be New Gods, but if it is, that's cool. But I don't think it'll be revealed in the next 2 episodes that like, they're bringing in like New God shit. But it was nice to see, and I thought it was pretty awesome when I was watching the episode.
Yeah, and you know what? Later on in the show, we're gonna do a bit of a review. So I just wanted to kind of mention this because we talked about this on DC Daily months ago when we initially were gonna we found out that Tom Cavanagh was gonna be coming back in the show, and he was not gonna be playing Harrison Wells. We were like wondering what character he was gonna be playing. So it's good that we finally seen him now. I mean, and we'll get into whether his character is here to stick around or not, and what what impact he had on the episode later on. But hey, let's continue on with the next piece of news. Again, a little bit of DC news, and we're gonna expand on this DC news later in the show because we have so much more than just what this headline talks about. But James Gunn, Liz and John, you guys, of course, know the man James Gunn, the man, the myth, the legend. The guy, works on 4 projects at a time because that's just his, the pace at
He's
which
like
he
you.
works.
He's like
Exactly. Exactly.
Nah, Dan,
I think
only 4 for Dan. Come on now. Works on
that's also
17
true.
projects.
That's
at
also
once.
true. But I mean, in between his flights back and forth from LA to Atlanta between Peacemaker and Superman, he does get time to still do interviews and press tour for Creature Commandos, and I don't know, like he just does a lot. And speaking of which, he recently did an interview where he was asked about the future of maybe hopefully getting more rated R films in the DC Studios era, and whether DC would shy away from that, what their approach would be. And basically what he said is in the headline right there. It says, whatever is worthy of the story, that's what we're going to do. So Liz, I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this first. I mean, of course, the interview, he kind of says a few other things, but the gist of it is that we're going to get rated R movies and TV series is going to depend on the subject matter, and DC's not going to shy away from that rating. What are your thoughts on this? And what do you think like that's going to result in? Are there any projects that you have in mind that might be worth a rated R, like a R rating? I mean, obviously you just watched Peacemaker. That definitely feels like it's going to continue to be that. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I mean it makes perfect sense, right? If the project deems it necessary to get an R rating, to be a little more adult, a little more graphic, a little more aggressive, then absolutely. I mean, should Penguin be R rated? Is it R rated right now? I don't even know, but I don't know that it's that foul.
It was
down and dirty like
TVMA.
Peacemaker. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
So
closest to R that we get for TV.
yeah,
so
I mean
yeah.
it's
The
it's a
equivalent.
fairly dark show. It's just not, there's no nudity or anything like that, but it's, they're blowing people's brains out and stuff. So yeah, that it's, again, per project, it makes sense to do that. That's what Marvel does, and you just got to go with the times and adjust it. At the end of the day, it's up to the audience to determine what they're going to show their kids, what they're not going to show their kids. So just make what you want to make good content and put the rating on it, and it is what it is. So I'm fine with it either way.
I think that's a good approach to have, and I also think that this is where Marvel has sort of ended up now, because I remember, I think it was either Kevin Feige or Bob Iger a few years ago. They were like, "Oh, we don't do R-rated anything. But it doesn't need to be rated R. Deadpool is the exception." And now we're getting a Daredevil show that's going to be firmly rated R. We had Echo this year, which was very rated R, and I'm sure there's going to be more projects like that, especially because they want to bring more of the Defender characters, and all of those shows were rated R on Netflix. So on the DC side, of course, we have already seen like 2 Joker movies that were rated R, but the Batman wasn't. However, the Penguin was, like you said, basically the equivalent of rated R on television. And of course, Peacemaker is very much, TVMA, aka rated R. So, John, I want to get your take on this as well now. What do you think this means for the DCU? I mean, of course, I think Creature Commandos, I'm not 100% sure, but doesn't that also sort of lean into the R rating? So what are your thoughts? I mean, does this mean we're going to get a lot of R-rated content, or is it going to be a healthy mix? Like, are there any examples of projects that are already announced that you think will be rated R for sure?
Yeah, I think like out of the movies that were out of the movies that have been announced, Swamp Thing and the Authority or definitely are rated. Most definitely. Those are. I don't see anything else. I can't see those not being R rated.
Right.
And then I don't think Brave and the Bold would, because that's Batman, and that's their most common denominator kind of thing. Like everybody loves Batman, so you got to make that PG-13. But Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow could, with how kind of dark that story is.
I was gonna say that there is potential, but given the fact that they're releasing in the middle of the summer, I feel like they might want to go like a hard PG-13.
It's a hard PG-13.
Yeah,
is like probably the most that's going to happen with that. And then Superman Legacy is most definitely going to be PG-13.
I think we know that one.
The Batman Part 2, that could push for rated R. I know the first one was PG-13, but with how darker this universe is going, it could definitely be rated R. And then like Teen Titans, I don't think. Lanterns could be, Booster Gold could be. That's could be, but I don't think Paradise Lost, since Game of Thrones was kind of the vibe there. That most definitely would be like TVMA. Creature Commandos, I'm pretty sure, is TVMA. So, and Waller, I think yeah, as James Gunn said, not every single solitary thing needs to be R. I wouldn't even mind seeing some PG stuff. Like sometimes you don't need to go that far. Like have like
Right.
a like people forgot. Like I didn't realize this until I was ordering tickets for it, but Conclave was PG. That was a PG movie. So
It's the subject matter, right? Like
Right.
it's very specific reasons why movies even get that rated R rating,
Well,
right? Like for
yeah,
example,
it's the content and the context. So if there's
yes,
nudity,
yeah,
obviously, if there's a ton of F-bombs, obviously, like
yeah,
that's what always, like I said, here in the Penguin, people are getting blown away, and it's like, it's MA, like you know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
about finding that, finding the overall tone and balance, and it's like if you're going to drop one F-bomb, then maybe PG-13, but if like every other character is just cursing like sailors, then yeah, you're going to want to put that R rating up there.
yeah.
yeah.
So I don't think it's like I think it like any rating should be good for any suit. Like something that's I think there could be something that could be even PG. Maybe even fucking like if it's dark enough, fucking NC-17. I would say go for it. Like that could be, if you got like a really supremely fucked up character, I would say fucking make it NC. Like here's the thing, like the thing is like the few things that DC has a one up on Marvel is
Mhm.
not being owned by fucking Disney. So like really push that.
Not
like,
yet.
Not yet. Okay, let's not.
I don't think that's gonna get through like the FTC and like the
I don't know. Disney
department.
like fucking paid their way out of like
It's
making Mickey Mouse public
I mean
domain
yeah.
like 30 years ago. So
Well, no,
anything
actually,
can
but
happen.
hey, you know what though? Like, so it was Mickey Mouse, the original Mickey Mouse cartoon, is finally in the public domain. So
Yeah.
they can only push it so far. But anyway,
Anything can
I
happen,
digress.
but
Yeah.
I think really just like okay, the fact it's owned by Warner Brothers. I know Warner Brothers are the kings of bad decisions, but like lean into that. Like go for like any sort of thing. Because what Marvel does, it's like out of the 3 projects you mentioned, it's like okay, Echo is TVMA and Daredevil Born Again are TVMA. All right, fine. Those are TV though. Like outside of Deadpool and Wolverine, which according to various reports, Kevin Feige and Bob Iger like fucking dragged their feet and were like, we have to make it R-rated. So like that's the whole thing with Marvel.
Well,
And then the only reason that they did is Ryan Reynolds was like fucking took a knife to their neck and were like, we're making this fucking movie R-rated, and if you don't like it, I will slice your fucking neck and show the head to your children.
I don't know if that's
I don't know about that, but throughout the movie, they did have
Yeah.
the running joke that like the only thing we can't do is talk about cocaine, snort cocaine. Like that was the running joke. They were like, Feige said no cocaine. Like so they do make fun of themselves. They do recognize that there is a line, and
yeah.
like even Dan talking about like the Netflix Marvel shows being R-rated. Even those weren't so over the top that and they don't need to be. They don't need to be.
Yeah.
They all had really good writing, really good storytelling. Those were
Yeah,
really
I'm not saying
compelling
you
shows.
need to like
Yeah,
as
so,
you said,
again, it's
whatever
all
is
about
worthy of the
context.
story, that's okay. Like that's what we're gonna do. Like
Right.
and I'm not saying you need to have like fucking 17 sex scenes and like
Right.
copious amounts of nudity or like drugs. I'm not saying you need to do that, but like I think the fact that it's not owned by Disney, which is the very like kid-friendly company, like kind of lean into that more. And so I think this is like a kind of a good idea, and especially a guy who had a very illustrious history with probably one of the most degenerative and fucked up movie companies of all time. I think that helps with like we're gonna do whatever is called for the future of this brand. And
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I like that approach, by the way. And then to clarify a couple of things, Ryan Reynolds brought up many ideas to Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige, said no to a lot of them before he said yes to any. So I don't know if it was that Ryan Reynolds forced the R rating. I think it was more Kevin Feige realizing that character, like Deadpool, doesn't really work if the same like to its maximum
And
potential
it's
if
what
you're
the
not
fans
doing it
want.
rated
They
R.
want it to. They want the
Exactly.
action. They want the true to the character, true to the storyline. That's what they want. So
Which
when
right,
fans
exactly.
saw that R rating, they lost their shit. They were thrilled. They
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. So they
Yeah.
did exactly what they needed to do, and they did
Yeah.
right by their fans.
And
So
not
it's
only
all good.
that, but like we've got like a couple of examples in the chat. I mean, Caleb pointing out that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was a very hard PG-13 in some areas. Like James Gunn has pushed the boundaries before. Lenny's in the chat. Hello, Lenny. Of course, we always
Hey,
love to
Lenny.
see you. We've got Ron in the chat pointing out that the Batman, even the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, that actually pushed
PG-13
the edge. Literally, when like the opening sequence when the Riddler like get hit with his first victim, I'm like they had it like out of focus because like they did like creative tricks to get the MPA to not give him R rating, but that pushed the envelope. It really
That
did.
pushed it, definitely.
And of course, I mean, then there's stuff like, Zack Snyder is like, okay, Ben Affleck gets to say drop one F-bomb, and so we're gonna get PG-13. But then when the Snyder Cut comes out, all of a sudden everything he shot with, Ben Affleck again had multiple F-bombs. So there's examples of it out there, but in going in both directions. But it's just like you said, John and Liz, like it's good to see that James Gunn is not putting the new DC universe in a box saying we can only do PG-13 and stuff, right? Like we will just whatever rating is most appropriate. And the thing about ratings is it's not like ratings are given by the studio heads or the producers of the movie. It's like these ratings are given by the MPA. They know what's going to get a rated R rating versus a PG-13 rating. So like as a filmmaker, you have some decision-making power over that. Like you can cut some things out. The studio has, a lot of people who will be able to tell you, okay, if you keep that scene in there, this movie might get an R rating. You can go get a rating and then change up the movie and then have them, change it to a different rating if you wanted to like get it, for example, not have it to be rated R but be PG-13 instead. So it's a process, but at the same time, I just love the idea that James Gunn is like like I said earlier, not putting the universe that they are creating in a creative box, which is going to be great because something like a Swamp Thing I think would work a lot better as rated R rather than have trying to
make it like
fit
true
into,
like fucking body horror shit. Like that
exactly.
would be awesome.
Exactly. So yeah, well, hey, we're gonna continue this conversation because James Gunn had a lot more than just this to say this week, as he's been answering fan questions. There's a lot of other stuff to get into.
Man. He is hustling.
He is absolutely hustling. So we're gonna definitely get into that as the show goes on. But right now we have one more piece of news, and I mentioned it in the intro. There were some punches thrown and then some not so many punches thrown. I guess it depends on how good or bad your viewing experience was. Maybe you didn't see any punches thrown because your stream froze, or maybe you didn't see any punches thrown because the fight wasn't all that good. But they went 8 rounds, and at the end of the day, Jake Paul won via unanimous decision, and Mike Tyson, of course, coming out the loser. However, both of them were pretty gracious to each other. Jake like bowed to him in the moment, and then they hugged it out, and all of that. However, for the people watching at home, it looked like the stream pretty much almost barely worked for some people, and for some people where it did work, it was choppy, and then there were very few people who actually got to see the whole fight without any tech issues. It was kind of like me earlier in the show, frozen, and then off, and then you would go back to the page with all the metadata for the event, and then you're trying to click back into it and it just keeps loading. So of course the broadcast industry group, which just put out a statement saying a viewing experience marred by glitches and buffering. And before the show we were talking about this, Liz, it's not just the people at the venue itself that are producing the event. Those people might have done a fantastic job.
Right.
It's the fact really that Netflix doesn't do live events, right? So like there's a lot of back end issues they probably didn't anticipate.
This is like their third or fourth live event that they've ever done, and certainly never did this scale. Absolutely not. It just cracks me up. Like people don't understand like the state of streaming, the state of television is so different than it used to be. So it's about your internet provider. If you're buffering watching a Hulu show, if you're buffering watching Disney Plus or Amazon or Paramount or any of those, you're going to buffer watching Netflix too. Like you can't, I refuse to blame Netflix for this situation because I don't know that they had an idea of the kind of numbers that they were going to get. I was at work when this happened. I happened to be on break just as the fight was starting. Everyone in that break room was watching this on their phone, whether they gave a shit about boxing or not. I think this is the first boxing match I've seen in like 10 years. So they had unprecedented numbers. They've never streamed live like this before. Shit's gonna happen. Everybody needs to calm down. It's so ridiculous. And again, like if you already have a subscription, technically you got to see what would normally be a crazy pay-per-view fight for free. So shut up. I just like
Exactly.
like come on.
I mean, like, do you guys remember? I don't know if you how much into boxing you guys are, but I remember in recent years, whenever like Floyd Money Mayweather has a fight or like another celebrity boxing fight, and you have it on pay-per-view, it's at least $100, if not like 150 or something, right?
Right.
Whereas here, you might be paying, even if you have the ad tier, it's something where the most,
It's like less
I mean,
than
I
$20.
pay
Like get out of here.
exactly. I mean, I have like the one extra thing added for somebody whose account is like somebody who doesn't live at home. Like I have one of those Netflix accounts where I pay for the 4K and everything, the highest tier, and then the extra $6. So I pay like $32 a month for Netflix. But even then, it's a total bargain because for $32, fuck the penguin, is just absolutely, you know, a killer deal. So and he's not gonna freeze my internet this time.
No, my internet just gets frozen now.
Yeah, you know, he's moved on. He's just making the rounds to everybody's place. And like you said, Liz, if you missed it live, if you had issues with it, it's a learning experience for Netflix.
I will say though, I did go back and watch the replay the next day, and it's still buffered because I guess maybe they just had the original live footage or what. So it's I don't know what the root cause is, but again, it was unprecedented numbers. You're talking 60 million viewers at once, which has not happened in how many years? We just don't watch TV the same way anymore. So
Except
for
maybe
collectively,
the Super Bowl, but I don't know how
so
what those
collectively for
numbers
people
are.
around the world, yeah, exactly. And unfortunately for all of us that were watching, it was exactly, Jay, it was the biggest waste of time. We all got played. That's what it was. We all got absolutely played. It was pathetic. And that's really as much as I'm going to say about it, because just, you know what, those gentlemen got paid, they walked away happy, good for them. They hustled the entire world.
Yeah, I just love like Caleb is like glitching or freezing or not, the fight was a total honka. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. I mean, and
the
also
most
like,
exciting part of all of that was seeing Mike Tyson's bare ass for absolutely no reason
honestly,
at all.
that was like the most.
We got our money's worth there, gang.
Yeah. It's like now Jake Paul is set to fight. His next opponent is going to be the 100-year-old Jimmy Carter. Let's go, guys. Let's go. No, next they're going to dig up Arnold Palmer's corpse, and he's going to fight him. You know.
Well, and let's be honest. The only reason 60 million people tuned in was to see Mike murder Jake Paul, and it didn't happen.
Absolutely.
The two of them sat down, shook hands, and said, "You know what?
Right.
I don't want to beat you up. I don't want you to beat me up. So let's just make our money and run away." That's what happened. But at the end of the day, nobody got what they wanted except those two gentlemen in the ring.
Yeah, so. It was pretty much like, oh, who would have thunk that the company that Jake Paul's company that funded the fight, had the fight pit, do all this stuff. Oh my God. And Jake Paul won. That's crazy. Yeah. But it's like, no matter what, at the end of the day, Jake Paul loses. Like, okay, if he wins, congrats. You beat a 60-year-old man in boxing.
Exactly.
Big whoop. Yeah. And then if he lost, you just got beat by a 60-year-old, you fucking idiot. And the thing is, on top of the fact, when it was announced he was the winner, the entire fucking arena booed. Like nobody in this dude's entire lifetime, nobody likes Jake Paul. Nobody likes Logan Paul. Nobody. Right.
They're the worst. They're the absolute worst.
They're the worst. They're assholes. They are annoying people. They don't pay their taxes. They film themselves in the suicide forest.
To go there.
Okay.
But I just want to comment on what Antonio had to say. I completely agree with you, but at the same time, they're not. WWE is not going to have those numbers. They're not going to have those numbers. The entire world. No. I'm not tuning in to watch WrestleMania live. I'm sorry. The entire world is not going to be doing that. My break room at work is not going to stop to watch WrestleMania that night. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a completely different scale, completely different setup. And that's something that they're going to do regularly. Like in addition to WrestleMania, they're going to have Raw regularly as well. So they'll be able to work those kinks out and have a stronger feed at that time. This was a one-off situation. We're probably never going to see something like this for quite some time, aside from WrestleMania. So I think, Netflix is going to do what they're going to do. And listen, they're going to raise the prices regardless of what they've got going on. That's people's MO at all of these streaming services. That
Yeah.
have
And
us
then
by
when
the
it reaches
short term.
cable levels, everyone's going to go back to piracy because that's nobody wants to fucking pay for this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But hey,
And
look,
yes,
ho,
Fiona
grab
Tyson
rum,
did
guys.
slap Jake Paul because Jake Paul stepped on his foot. So it was all a show. It doesn't matter. It was all a sham. They took us for a ride. They got their payday, and we're all a bunch of assholes for watching. So there
I
you go.
didn't fucking watch this garbage.
Can you imagine if it was like chess boxing though? You play chess in the ring for a round and move to the chess table and boxer? I don't get it. That would be that's a concept to try out maybe for the like Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul 2. But I was actually gonna like pick up on the point.
Please not. This was pretty much like on the border of elder abuse.
Right.
Like,
I don't think this is happening again because Mike Tyson
again, that's just it, right?
got his
If
payday.
Jake Paul beats him,
yeah.
he beat a 50-year-old man, and if Jake Paul loses, he got beat by a 50-year-old. So it's no matter what, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
putting this all together. It's
Mike got money.
Please.
So fuck it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, at first I was like, "Oh yeah, Mike Tyson's gonna beat his ass," but then this time
that's what we all thought. That's
and
what we
then
all wanted
everyone's like,
to
no,
we
this
all
dude's
very
like
hopefully
60. But it's like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, Mike Tyson will forever remain one of the greatest boxers who's ever lived, and Jake Paul will be a disgraced
a giant waste of
ex-viner.
everyone's time.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Please. He's due for a scandal any minute now, that fucking guy.
I mean,
with how many YouTubers that are coming out as diddlers, I wouldn't be shocked if,
Christ. Yeah, please.
Add him to the list. He went to the P. Diddy parties, It's just
no surprise there. It's probably the only parties he ever gets invited to, loser. Anyway, let's move along.
I was just gonna address the comments about the WWE events coming because Monday Night Raw, like you guys mentioned, and then I don't think so. Here's the thing. It depends on where you live. If you live internationally, then I think a lot of the rights are being consolidated into Netflix starting next year, but it's going to be over time. So you may or may not be watching WrestleMania on Netflix abroad. In the US, Netflix will only have Monday Night Raw starting next year. All the other WWE events are still on Peacock. I was just going to say though, as far as the actual like what the headline says, the glitches that they had and all the issues with the streaming on the back end, like as far as like how the streaming works, like there's a lot of different servers that things get routed through. So even if the event itself, everybody who was working the live event from the production side with the cameras and sound and all those guys, even if they did a fantastic job, to give you guys a sense of perspective, the highest watched broadcasts of the year generally tend to be NFL games. And Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, prime time, both in prime time, usually get around 30 million, usually somewhere in that range of people watching it on broadcast television.
And
this got, like you said, Liz,
those buffer sometimes too. Sometimes you have glitches there too. So
they do, but like the systems are in place because they do it like every week, multiple times a week. So they have all the infrastructure in place to make it happen. 60 million is twice as much, is way more than anything they got for the Tom Brady roast or any other live event that Netflix has done recently. And the other thing is, it's like when WWE comes on the platform, here's the thing. WWE has always been at the forefront of like the technology side of things. The WWE Network was one of the first streaming services launched to compete, in the space where Max and Peacock and Paramount Plus and Discovery Plus and none of that shit existed. Apple TV Plus, none of that existed before when WWE Network started. And so I think when they come into the fold, they're going to have a plan in place. Plus, like you said, Liz, before the show started, that what they are doing here is this is giving them a sample size. All right, they're like, this went wrong, that went wrong. Now we can fix those problems so that when we're airing a show like Monday Night Raw at once a week, 52 weeks a year, you don't have those problems anymore. Plus, I bet you Netflix is going to try to do more events like this where you have a celebrity fight. So, you learn from your mistakes.
Of course they are. Of course. They're showing that they have the capability to do so. So it's going to get bigger. It's going to get it's going to end up being promoted like Wicked. We're going to like this fight. We had the whole year listening about it. It's going to be the same bull crap and people were going to buy it because we bought it this time. So I don't know what that says about us as a society as a whole, but oh well, this is the future, gang.
By the way, Lenny John saying diddler made me fall off my chair laughing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then Antonio saying 2026 you'll be able to watch SmackDown and other TV shows from WWE internationally. That's true. In the US though, it's still on Peacock for a while. They just re-upped their deal. And then Jay Kelly making a point about like future Netflix events. Like for example, they will probably try to get Floyd Money Mayweather to fight someone, which I can see happening. I just don't know if he wants to continue to do more fights. Hunter Iggy, you're in the you're asking if you saw your comment. I genuinely don't think I did.
I'm
So if you
going
wanna
through the
just-
chat and you didn't
Yeah.
ask something, so I
Exactly.
don't know
So
what
if you
your
want to
comment
send it
is.
again, please send it over. We're not trying to like mess with you. We just did not see your comment. Yeah, and then TC24 saying they got a football game for Christmas, so hopefully they'll fix it soon. Exactly. They did get I think they got an NFL
They have
game
2
now.
games.
So
They have 2 games for Christmas.
2 games, yeah. So they're
Yeah.
gonna get their stuff together, and then obviously the NFL is very familiar with streaming because they do it all the time. It's part of their NFL Plus streaming service. You can watch all the NFL games on there. So as far as partnering up with these other brands and organizations that are much more familiar with how the technical side of things works, Netflix I'm sure is gonna get there, and they have an audience clearly, right? 60 million people tuning in to watch it on Netflix. I mean, Netflix probably was not expecting numbers anywhere close to that. So
Well, and
but-
isn't Shane
yeah.
McMahon still a part owner of UFC? So I'm sure at some point there's going to be
I don't
UFC
know if he
fights
is.
that end up on there. He was for a
I
little
don't
while.
think.
So
Yeah, but I don't
maybe
think he's
not
involved
anymore.
at all.
Yeah.
No,
But
because since
Dana
UFC
White's
and
going to try and
WWE
get a piece
merged.
of that pie too. Eventually, they're all going to get in on. They're going to team up with different streaming services and do all this stuff, and
Yeah, it's
and
speaking
we're
of which,
all going to buy in.
we're not going to get into this today because it wasn't one of the things we picked out. But I will say the best fight of the weekend was Stipe Miocic and John Jones. That was to me was the better fight. Like if you watch the Tyson fight one, the next night that UFC fight was the one to watch. Hunter, you're like, you just send us the comment again. You just like refresh your live chat. We can't see it. Like we literally don't. Anyway, whatever. Hunter, please send the comment again. We'll get to it. Right now, though, the news is we're out of the news segment. Let's move over to a movie segment. So today we're gonna review Red One. We were just talking about how 60 million viewers, tuned in to watch the fight Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Guess what? Nowhere near close to 60 million people are gonna go to watch Red One. At least that's where things currently stand. And I don't think it's going to get any better because this movie is looking like probably one of the biggest bombs of the year. Like they spent over $200 million on it. And I believe its opening weekend box office were somewhere in the $30 million range. So John, you mentioned earlier in the show that you went to see this over the weekend. So I do want to get your opinion on this. What did you think about Red One? Do you think the reviews are unfairly critical of the movie? Do you feel like was there a big audience in your movie theater? What was your audience reaction? What do you think about what the critics are saying?
There was,
and more importantly, what do you think?
There was a decent amount of people in my theater. There was at least, I want to say, maybe over a dozen, which was more than the last few movies I saw. So that's like there was nobody in Heretic, there was nobody in Conclave. So I don't know, but. Red One is one of those movies that has a very dumb premise, and it's very, and the trailer shows that. So I don't know what critics were expecting with this one, but like, oh, the CGI looked really bad there. But it's like, because like the Rotten Tomatoes score is actually pretty good. It's like at like 80 something right now, if I remember correctly.
But I mean the critic score is in the dumpster.
The critic score
32%.
Is in the garbage.
But it's rare to see a popcorn meter that says it's rarefied hot 90%. That's a good score. I would say a bit over 1,000 ratings.
90%. Yeah, that's hot audience score. I think the Metacritic score is also kind of not great, but it's a whole bunch of stuff. So it's just like it's very weird, but I think it's just like people saw the trailer, they're like, okay, a dumb, fun Christmas movie, and that's exactly what it is. It's a dumb movie. It is a perfectly the Metacritic score is like 34, but the Google score is like 3 point something, 4 point something. So it's like I don't know. It's just like it's stupid. It's a stupid movie, and this is but. When I was reviewing it with friends of mine, we were all wondering, like, why the fuck didn't this just go straight to streaming? This would have been a perfect straight to streaming movie.
It seemed
at the
like
holidays.
a streaming film. Like it
Yeah.
very much felt like a movie that was bound for. And you know what? Warner Brothers and I think Universal Pictures are involved in this, but then Amazon MGM Studios are a part of it. So I'm wondering, like, who actually
Warner
owns
Brothers
the movie?
Is distributing it internationally. MGM is distributing it domestically.
Domestic. So does that mean that Universal actually made the movie? Is that what that is? Oh no. Oh, it's an MGM movie. I just looked this up. It's an actual So why not just put it on Amazon Prime? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly why. It's like Roadhouse is too shitty for movie theaters, but this is okay.
I don't get it. I don't get that logic.
The only
I feel
thing
like
I can
Roadhouse
think of is like The Rock being like, "You better not put this on streaming. I'm too good for streaming because I'm the fucking Rock." That's the only thing I can imagine. Like he strong-armed people and like, this needs to be the movie theater experience. Like he like sat in Christopher Nolan's IMAX seat and he's like, "This is gonna be the greatest fucking thing ever." And then yeah. But it was just like it's a stupid movie. It's like it like has some fun with like the acting. Some of the acting's pretty. I mean, The Rock still can't act. Like 95% of his movies, he's just The Rock. Like rarely does he actually put on a performance. Like Maui is probably one of his better ones. I remember he was good in Get Smart, where that whole movie was like satirizing the dumb action hero, which is ironically what he just does now. All right, Josh, shut the fuck up. And so the cast is okay. Like J.K. Simmons is great as Santa Claus. Like I would say, like I would have liked to see more of him. Yes, he will change the hierarchy of Christmas. Yeah. So, but the thing is, like the whole thing is like
movie makes
kidnapped.
enough money.
The whole thing is like him.
I didn't even know Lucy
kidnapped,
Liu was
so
in
it's
this.
like
yeah.
So it's like, of course, we're not going to get a lot of him. I would have liked to see him more, but like, it's okay. But like, so if you want like good J.K. Simmons Santa Claus action, just go watch Claus, Klaus. I think it's on Netflix.
I remember that one. Yeah.
It came out like 5 years ago, and I've heard it's like an amazing movie. I still haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's fantastic. So just go watch that. But Red One is just it's very like. The Rock still can. Lucy Liu, I think, was kind of wooden at points. Like she was like, again, like for most of these people, it just felt like a paycheck movie. Like it just felt like everyone else was a paycheck. Well, meanwhile, The Rock, this is gonna be the greatest Christmas movie ever made. And all of Chris Evans' dialogue was all horrible Marvel quips. Like 99% of his dialogue was like bad Marvel quips. It's like imagine every terrible Marvel joke that you've heard in the past. It was in this movie. Like, what's this now? It's like, oh, did that just really happen? Or oh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Like, ooh, dude, it's that like kind of like Marvel-esque bullshit. And even a couple of friends of mine joked that, like, was this written by AI? Because it feels like it was written by AI. And not gonna lie, just take every like a bunch of Christmas movies, bunch of Marvel movies, and like stick it in here, and then like that's kind of what it was. Because there's like so many aspects that like have been done better in other movies. It's like you have the guy that has 1 day left until retirement, action hero. It's like, okay, we've seen that before. We've seen like Santa Claus as an action hero, like Rise of the Guardians, and Claus is another example. And then you have like, the militarized North Pole that's been done in like Santa Claus with Tim Allen and Arthur Christmas, and like it's pretty much just compiling like a bunch of like modern Christmas movies and just shoving it into a blender, but like the blender isn't turned on, so it doesn't mix well, and it's just
that's a good analogy.
there.
Yeah.
Like, is it enjoyable? Yeah, it's enjoyable, but it's not like a good movie. It's an enjoyable movie. It's not great. The CGI is absolutely fucking horrendous. Like some of the green screen shots in this movie are just terrible. Some of the humor hits, but most of it is just cringeworthy. I will say the practical effects when they go to like Krampus's like domain was really good. Like like it looked like Mos Eisley Cantina type stuff, where it's like you have all these like very ornate like makeup and prosthetics and like these demonic looking characters. I'm like, why couldn't we get like more of that with this rather than this abysmal CGI? So it's like, what is this? And then you have like the Chris Evans's character is like, oh, he's the tracker that like has a family but like doesn't care about them but secretly cares about him because he's a criminal with a heart of gold, and he needs to like by the end of the movie he needs to have a better relationship with his son. And it's like, because he's like really been nice the whole time, he just needed to unlock it. The villain's pretty one-dimensional. It's just like, obviously, don't go into this expecting It's a Wonderful Life. Like, you're going to be disappointed, obviously. Don't expect Die Hard. Don't expect Arthur Christmas. Don't expect Better Watch Out or any of these amazing Christmas. If you're going in, if you have nothing to do, go see it on like a Tuesday afternoon, get a matinee, get a cheap seat, like, and just like kind of enjoy the ride, or wait till streaming. Like, it's not really a theater level movie, which is, again, like, why was this out? The only thing I can think of is The Rock's ego. He's like, I want this to be fucking in theaters.
Well,
the
but
theater
again,
movie experience. It's like,
so this is a prime example of marketing that's working, though, right? Like, the trailer looks great. The trailer makes it look incredible. I was so excited to see this film. My family saw the trailer when we went to see Beetlejuice in theaters, and they were like, wow, that looks so great. I have my ticket. I'm seeing it on Saturday. But I've heard all the reviews. I'm hearing what John's saying, and I'm gonna go and take it for face value and just hope I'm somewhat
just
entertained.
like expect.
I mean,
like
I'm gonna look for Sevens for an hour and a half. That's worth the price of admission.
Although unfortunately neither of them go shirtless, so I don't know how much you're gonna enjoy that. But
this is the money maker up here with that guy. It's all good.
It's just like, I will say Chris Evans like tries his best. I will say he did like try his best.
Well, that's what he does. Yeah.
It's just like the fucking writing for his character is just so.
Well, the way you're talking about the CGI, it makes me wonder if the movie, in fact, was created by AI, like the whole thing. Like, it's just, they were all looking for a paycheck and they got it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of, I hate to say it, but like, I don't know if you remember like the famous like Superman curse, like everything, like every actor who played Superman, like everything, like something bad happened to them and eventually it went away. But I think there's the Marvel actor curse. Like everything that, like pretty much most things that these guys do after Marvel or outside of Marvel have been shit. Like, sure, you get Oppenheimer every once in a while, but that's like was at a point when Robert Downey Jr. it was post MCU for him until he, redacted that shit because he wants money.
It's the Oscars curse too, right? When you win Best Actor, then all of a sudden you don't have a project for 5-10 years. So it's
he was. That was
if anybody watched Mr. McMahon, they talk about that with Hulk Hogan too. Like, even though Hulk Hogan was America's hero, they still got sick of seeing him every week. So there's
that's what it is with The
ebbs
Rock.
And flows, ups and downs. It is what
Don't be naughty, Lenny. Like, I'm not like, it's not like you're gonna get like The Crow like levels of horrendous. Like, you're gonna get like
I did see that one too.
You're gonna get like a kind of a decent fun, and it's not even like Madam Web where it's so bad it's good. It's a decent little movie.
No, Madam Web was not a so bad it's good situation either.
All right,
though.
you
Absolutely
asked for
not.
it. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not go there. Nobody wants. I mean, I probably have bigger tits than some of the women watching right now. Anyway, but we call them moves. It's okay.
Are we trying to get canceled tonight? What is going on?
Oh, what's going on?
If I'm talking bad about The Rock, I'm probably going to get canceled by him. He's probably going to show up at my door right now and be like,
we got The Rock is going to send.
I'm going to be playing some Krumpeschnacht or whatever the hell it was called. But yeah, I will say, Christopher Hoovchu, the guy, the redheaded guy from Game of Thrones. I forget. I can't pronounce it. It's Christopher something. It's Swedish. He was amazing as Krampus. He was having so much fun. I mean, J.K. Simmons was great as Santa Claus. It's just like The Rock is The Rock. Lucy Liu.
The Rock just plays himself. That's
he does.
Exactly.
It's like rarely do you get like like, I know this is a bad example because it's a horrible movie, but like Boxer Santoros in Southland Tales was definitely like so like, but this was like before The Rock blew up. So like this was before he had like his massive fucking ego. So like he could do like weirder experimental projects like that. But it's like when he does like stuff like that, that's like, that's not too bad. But it's like when he's just like doing these like generic action movies and like all this, and the thing is like, I don't like Jake Kasdan as a director. Like he did a good job with the Jumanji movies. Like I was surprised with how much I fucking love those movies, but it just feels like I think those movies had good writing behind them. This just like Chris Morgan, it's clear like The Rock was, I mean, he was a producer on this. Chris Morgan wrote a lot of the Fast and Furious sequels.
I was gonna say, is that where you're going?
Yeah. So, and you know, he also wrote like Shazam! Fury of the Gods and like all these, like I looked at his filmography and like, and I like Fury of the Gods. I thought that was an awesome movie, but like there was some problems with that movie.
It
So
looked
like
real nice. It was a pretty film.
but yeah, it's just
yeah.
this is just kind of a it's just like it's as I say
So what
to
you're saying,
everybody.
What you're saying, John, is it's not going to be in my top 5 Christmas films. Along
It's
with
not going to be in your top 5
Night
Christmas. It's not going to be your top 5 worst Christmas movies. Yes. But it's just I say this to everybody who has asked me, what did you think of Red One? Dumb but harmless. It is a harmless movie. It's a safe movie. It's a generic movie with a lot of like really dumb stuff, bad stuff in it, like the CGI, The Rock's ego.
It's a put it on in the background while the kids are opening
one-dimensional crap in terms of the writing. But like it's still, you're not gonna like lose brain cells while you watch it. Just like, again, see it for cheap or see it at streaming. Like that's pretty much what I say. But I would say save your money for Gladiator, save your money for Sonic the Hedgehog, save your money for Nosferatu. Those are like I will say one of the trailers I saw for this, I didn't even realize it was coming out. This is the only trailer I saw. It's coming out like I think later this week, September 5th. That looks really good. But like I don't know how good it would be, but like I'm just saying that looks like a intriguing movie. I would say go watch that. Because I don't know. Most of the Red One budget was The Rock's salary. It was like, yeah.
I mean, like literally this movie, we've been talking about it, like they've got a star-studded cast, and between The Rock, Chris Evans, I mean The Rock probably pulled the biggest paycheck of all of them, but you know,
I mean he was probably,
J.K. Simmons and Lucy Liu, $50 million
budget.
Yeah.
So his salary was probably $252.999.999 million, and then the rest of the budget was $1.
So did this do better or worse than Joker Folie à Deux? I just want to know.
I don't know.
This is okay. I was gonna.
Comparison.
Well, okay.
Worldwide,
so this
it made
movie,
80 million. So.
Yeah, right now it's sitting at like 84 something million worldwide. It debuted to 32 million, as you can see on the screen, with a budget of 250, and then they spent money marketing it also. It is actually a bigger. It's not okay. This is kind of hard to compare because Joker they spent like 150 million, then like another 100 million on marketing. But then it debuted to like what was it? What was it like what was it like single digits? John, do you remember? It was like 8 million or like 16.
It was like maybe like 12 to 20, something like that. It was still pretty pathetic.
Because I mean, I know this number is higher than Joker Folie à Deux. Like 32 million is more, but it's also like they spent another 100 million on this that the Joker did not have to worry about. So I think
so the opening was slightly more. It was 37.6 million. So it was a little bit more.
Okay, so this is definitely way worse then, because they've spent $100 million more and they made less in the opening weekend. It was the projections weren't good. I mean, the fact that it came in at 32 million is actually a little bit higher than some projections were saying, because it could have been in the 20s. But so to that end, you know, it's not doing very well. Venom: The Last Dance, on the other hand, we talked about it last week. It's still dancing its way Venom is gonna make probably $500 million.
Well,
But it's
like
hope so.
Ryan Reynolds said at the Deadpool movie about Chris Evans, he's like, that guy is killing our budget right now. So, if you put 5
yeah.
huge stars in one film and then a ton of
Mhm.
CGI on top of it, yeah, you're gonna spend some money. So,
Yeah.
oh well, it didn't work out for him. Too bad.
I
So
mean,
sad.
look, at the
Oopsies,
end of the
poopsie.
day, The Rock also was a producer on this movie, with this what was it? It's his production company's called $7 Productions, right? And so yeah, you're right. He not only, took home a paycheck for being an actor on the movie, but he's also a producer. So however, he's probably not gonna get any, very much money back because the movie's not gonna break
Yeah.
even as far as the producer goes. So it's not going to replace your favorite holiday movie. I mean, it's not going to replace your, Home Alones, or it's not going to replace
One of the best
the
Christmas
Santa
movies
Claus.
ever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Die Hard
or
or Die Hard 2.
Die Hard,
Neither.
Yeah,
Better
or
watch out. Krampus, as in the movie Krampus, really
yeah,
good.
it's not going to replace Iron Man 3.
That's true.
I just said that because Liz is on the show. But
but no, Iron Man 3, goated, underrated.
Yes, it is underrated. I have grown to like that more and more. But you know what?
We gotta
us-
do a top 10
let-
Christmas movies stream. Most
we
definitely
will.
Yes.
Christmas is coming
For
up.
sure.
We might even get a few extra special guests on here to do a bigger panel. But let us know in the meantime what you think
5 hour
about
stream,
Red
let's
One.
go.
If you saw it, probably. We'll see how that goes. But let us know in the comments what you thought about Red One, or if you haven't seen it, are you more excited to see it now, less excited to see it now? Is this a movie that interests you at all? Because clearly not a lot of people went to see it so far. But you know what? Speaking of Christmas movies, while Red One might not make the list for you, a movie that probably does for a lot of people. We talked about it last week. I want to kind of go back to the well one more time because we are getting closer to the Christmas season. Even though Thanksgiving, hasn't come yet, it's next week in the U.S. and abroad. Of course, you guys probably don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but Christmas is like what, 5.5 weeks away, something like that.
Wild.
And with that in mind, if you are feeling festive and you are doing your Christmas marathon of movies, then I'm sure one of those might be the Polar Express, which now is 20 years old, and it just blows my mind that the movie is 20 years old. So we want to take a quick look back at the Polar Express, and then on the other side of that, we're gonna do the segment that you guys are all excited about, I'm sure, because we have to talk more about James Gunn. We have to talk about what's going on with the DCU, all the rumors that James Gunn's been debunking. There was some set photos from Peacemaker today. We're gonna get into DCU Daily, but before that, let's take a look back at the weird motion capture animation from the wonderfully wicked and fun movie that was the Polar Express. No pun intended.
All aboard! Well, you coming?
The true spirit of Christmas lies in your heart.
Gee, Dan, I wonder which movie is going to be in your top 5 favorite Christmas freaking movies of all time. Oh my God.
It's up there. It's up there. But hey, you know what? Welcome to another episode of DCU Daily, and today we have to talk about Peacemaker, we have to talk about Superman, we're going to talk about the DCU as a whole. There's a few rumors about Creature Commandos. Speaking of Creature Commandos, it looks like the critics have gone their look at the show, and they've watched the whole show. Some of them seem to be putting out some reviews or spoilers before the embargo list. We're going to get into that as well. And beyond that, of course, we have some set photos to look at from today's Peacemaker shoot. And James Gunn has been answering a lot of fan questions as always, so we're going to talk about that as well. Now, of course, John, you are a big fan of Superman and Lois. So before we get into all the James Gunn news, I wanted to get into Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois just aired its 8th episode of its final season. So tell us what you thought about it. And, of course, we earlier talked about how the actor who used to play Harrison Wells, Tom Cavanagh, has returned to the CW, but he's playing a different character. So tell us more about what happened in this episode. And did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was another good episode. I will say it wasn't as good as last week's, but it was still a very good episode. I think it showcased Michael Cudlitz as like sort of the more scheming Lex Luthor a lot better. Like, because he was kind of like the metalhead Lex Luthor for like a while, but now we saw him like he's in the suit. Unfortunately, he doesn't have his magnificent beard anymore, like like me. But I like how there was the idea of, you know, the battle of facts and evidence was kind of interesting. As I said before, I like Tom Cavanagh as Glorious Godfrey slash Gordon Godfrey. I think that was definitely an inspired choice, and I really liked that. Um, it was the no-brainer of all time. That sounds like Morbin Time being the movie of all time. But I think it I think it was like a very good episode. It was like the aftermath of like revealing his identity to the world. You had a little bit of a tie-in with like the last season where it was, you know, like Lois having cancer. I will say it wasn't. I will say this overall, this season has not been good as previous seasons. It's probably the weakest so far, but it's not bad. Like considering how much they had to climb uphill for this, they've been delivering a pretty good season so far. I would say like a solid like 7 out of 10. But I think you had like the idea of like the twins being like celebrities, essentially the fallout of that. And you know, you had a little bit of interpersonal drama there with like the younger characters. We got to see, you know, John Henry again and Natalie, so that was, you know, really really awesome as well. It was nice to see them again. You had to deal with like some of that. Then you also have Superman. Like it was revealed in this episode that like what we've been kind of like insinuating, that at some point in the future, yeah, there's a lot of Jamie Kennedy references. I'm like, okay, like does Tom Cavanagh not like know Jamie Kennedy? Like it was like really weird because like I assume they picked an actor that was not like super famous, like Denzel Washington like wants to talk with us or something like that.
I don't know, yeah.
But it was like Jamie Kennedy. I'm like, okay, the has been from like the 2000s. I'm like, all right, sure. But you know, it was like it was just weird. But yeah, I liked how we're dealing with like a Superman. I would assume by the end of the show is gonna become like, at least like in a flash forward, I think like he's gonna become like fully human, like kind of like what the ending of Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow was, where it's like, you know, he became human, like the Gold's kryptonite like stripped him of his powers permanently, and it was assumed that he died, but no, he's just living his life as, you know, Clark Kent married to Lois, and like his kid is gonna have powers. So that was what they were, you know, referencing there. And I feel like that's the route they're gonna go. I have a feeling that it would be nice to see a flash forward like like we have, you know, the super twins instead of the Wonder Twins. It's like you have like two Supermen or like another like character. I don't know what you would call them, but I don't know. I know like one of the Superboys was called Zenith at one point, I think. So you could like do something like that where they become like their own heroes, or like one decides to live a normal life, well, normal, and you know, there was that as well. So I think what the show is doing, I think it's you know, yes, the power upgrade. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I liked, for the most part, I thought this was a very good episode. As I said, the last episode was definitely better, but we got a tease for the Lex suit. Like he stole John Henry Irons' steel suit, and it looks like we're finally gonna get a mech suit Lex Luthor. And I'm like, let's fucking go paint that shit green and purple, my guy. Let's fucking go. And you know, we finally saw Milton this episode, the guy who the super genius who they've been like teasing, who they called Brainiac in one of like the first episodes. So like, oh, they're gonna have Brainiac. It's like, no, it's just a nickname. It's just some guy, and it's just like, all right, calm down. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. It got some great teases. It got like a lot of really good story progression for the final 2 episodes. And I like with what they're doing here. I just wish they had a little bit more, but it's just like with impeded by budget and impeded by, like all this other stuff. It's understandable, like with how many obstacles they have to go with. They had to lose their entire cast with the exception of like guest star episodes and like all that. I get it. So like that's why I'm a little bit more forgiving, but even then, it's still a good show. It's still a good season. It just like the first 3 seasons were just so good that it was just like, damn, why couldn't we, get that again? But even then, I still like this episode and this season's good so far. And I'm stoked for Mech Suit Lex Luthor. That's what I want to see, most definitely. I think you're muted, Dan.
Sorry, I got a little distracted toward the end of the review because the chat is getting into all kinds of Star Wars conversation about the prequels and Anakin versus Luke Skywalker. I don't know anything to chime in. There's a whole conversation in the chat going, so oh my god. I don't there was news, by the way, sidebar that Disney took that Rey Star Wars movie off the release schedule for next year. So I don't know what's going on with that anymore. It seems like every time we get a Star Wars project, it just gets yanked at some, and that was apparently in production, so I don't know what happened to that one. Wow, Lenny, Dan is so sweet when his lips move, but there's no sound. Okay, all right. The sarcasm is going today. Wow. Ruthless. Yeah, Squidward. I love really the Watcher. He's like, Squidward, everyone's a critic. I you know what? Exactly. That's the right proper sentiment. Thank you, Lenny. I do have a huge smile. Because your comment made me laugh. Oh, you like that. All right, okay, I get it. Okay, cool. I don't know how the conversation around Star Wars started, and you guys are getting okay. Now you're trying to make me blush. All right, let's keep the ball rolling. Lenny and Fiona and everybody in the chat. Where is Temple, by the way, John? I don't know. We haven't seen Temple.
Yeah, we haven't seen him. Where Temple?
We got
Where
Buster J.
We need
got
that
everybody
Discord
else.
Reminder.
Josh, Caleb. Yes. You know what? We're gonna work on that. We are working on that this week. So that's gonna happen. But John, I did want to ask you earlier. We were talking about this, so let's kind of pivot back to James Gunn.
Yes.
He had these comments about rated R movies
Yes.
over at DC, and not just movies, but I mean TV series get the TVMA. What are your thoughts on, again, James Gunn just kind of clarifying like, hey, we're gonna follow again whatever the story calls for, and that's where we're gonna go with. Here is the exact quote now. We were earlier just sort of referencing it. He says, we're not about that. We're not about see how it does. Kind of talking about like, if you want to make more money because PG-13 will draw in a wider audience versus rated R. He said, we've got one opportunity to take these characters and really press forward and do what we believe. Yep. I am a great believer that if you tell good, authentic stories, if a movie does well or doesn't do as well, if you keep with that same philosophy, that you're going to build a universe that people are going to love and want to be a part of for a long time. What are your guys' thoughts in general on that approach? Because I think from a storytelling perspective, I personally think that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah. You're not cranking assembly line kind of movies, but like you're letting, which I mean, both of them have their pros and cons, not like one is like totally better than the other. Like I feel like Marvel is like trying their best to be like efficient when like you could kind of see that in like they're cranking out movies in like less than a year, and you could see like kind of in like the dodgy CGI and some of the writing that it's just like not as good. But at the same time, like, okay, James Gunn is doing like, let's focus on, I see how the Marvel machine is doing it, let's do it our own way. And he's like, okay, so let's like only greenlight a movie when we get a script, and then we can build it from there and all of that. But that also is like, okay, when are these movies gonna get green, and like we're kind of waiting with bated breath of like, okay, are they? It feels like they're never gonna get made. They're gonna be in development hell. So there's like a whole crux with that. But even then, I think both have their pros and cons. But I like how James Gunn is trying his best to be as different as he can from the Marvel machine by making the DC machine, I guess. So it's I like with what he's trying to do, and I appreciate it.
Did we lose Dan again?
We did lose Dan again.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and again, for me, a rating doesn't necessarily make a film. It's
Exactly.
the writing, it's the content. So if the tone calls for it, if there's nudity, if there's a lot of F-bombs, apparently blood and gore doesn't seem to matter anymore. Those can be PG. People can have their heads blown off and it's all good. Let little Johnny go see it after school. So
it's relative. It's a sliding scale.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the kills and how often people are killed. So maybe like Inglourious Basterds, sure, that's an R. But like we've even seen with the Penguin's TVMA, it doesn't have a hard R rating or even an NC-17. But again, there's no nudity in it. Whereas Peacemaker, there's nudity. There's even more swearing. So
where's the nudity? I missed that.
Yeah, you sure did, I guess.
I mean, we saw Amelia Harcourt in a bra and underwear, but that was like the. Oh no! Now I know.
You know what I'm talking. Okay, we're not. The very first episode.
I was
maybe?
like, hang on, wait a second. Nope. Now I remember. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. It was on for like a hot sec, but. Yep.
Well, so again, for me, I don't go flocking to a theater because a movie got an R rating. I mean, again, when Wolverine and Deadpool got that R rating, fans were thrilled, but that's because they're sticking to the true character, the true nature of the story, and doing it justice. So again, it's all about context for me.
Justice,
and, yes. It's not one of those where I'm going to go and say, oh, it's PG. I'm going to skip this one. You guys know I watch kids movies all the time too. So it doesn't matter to me what the rating is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there was this perception among studio executives, especially before Deadpool came out, that superhero movies need to be PG-13 because you're appealing to a younger audience in general, and you want to bring in as big of an audience as possible. Despite the fact that Blade made money, but Blade was not really considered like a movie that was for everybody, right? Like Blade was rated R, but it was like a niche project. When it came to making movies that they wanted to make $1 billion, like a Superman or a Batman or the Avengers,
most people didn't even
Iron
know
Man.
that Blade was based on a comic book when they went and saw it in the theater.
Exactly,
so,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, but having said that, I think when you got a Deadpool, then you got like a Joker too, and now we have got between the Joker and the Deadpool franchises, $2 billion rated R superhero movies. I think it broke the door, like a barrier wide open. Now it's less of a stigma. The studios are like, you know what? As long as it's a good story, it can do really well. Especially Deadpool and Wolverine, like $1.3 billion. I know there was a lot of like cameos and stuff, and that helps out. Like, but still, people had to go see it like 4 or 5 times, and the same happened with Joker too. So, not Joker 2. I mean, like Joker,
the first Joker.
2.
Yeah.
TOO. Sorry, just want to clarify.
Joker as well. Yes.
Joker as well. I want to feel like, oh yeah, nobody went to see that movie more than once. Most people didn't even see it once. But hey, we gotta move on. There's so many other DC news items we have to get into today. So John, we have been, of course, talking about so many different things from the world of James Gunn, essentially. James Gunn seems to be busy with not 1, not 2, but like 3 different projects. Right now, he's on a promotional tour for Creature Commandos, taping stuff with the cast and all. He is editing Superman, so he's doing post-production for that movie. And then he's still filming Peacemaker, where he wrapped most of the cast, but they're still not done. So today he posted an image, and I thought this was worth kind of like quickly taking a look at. Sam McCurdy, who just won what James Gunn said, rightfully so, a well-deserved Emmy for his cinematography on Shogun, which was one of the best shows of the year, like right alongside The Penguin. Speaking of which, fuck the Penguin. But Sam McCurdy is now doing cinematography on Peacemaker, and according to James Gunn, he's killing it. John, what do you think? Again, just having the talent there, like behind the cameras as well as in front of the camera.
Something.
It's one of the best in the business. The guy has got an Emmy on, like I do, on his shelf, and now he's working.
Fucking just flexing.
I do though. Right. I do. I have shown it to you guys. It does exist.
Yeah, I know, but you don't gotta flex it on us. Like, goddamn.
but what are your thoughts again on the talent that we have got here? Like James Gunn again, just bringing more and more talented people, which again you can never
It's
really go wrong with that,
exciting.
right? Yeah.
It's exciting, and I'm happy that they're finding these people that want to sign on and want to be a part of these projects. I think it's all good news for me. Like I said, if it's going to create good writing, a good show at the end of the day, and hopefully, keep those shows alive a little longer. It would be nice to see some longevity. I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing really good shows get canceled after, the second or third season. So I'm hoping for good things, and let's hope they can keep this trend continuing, because it's all,
Yeah.
everything seems to be going in the right direction right now.
Yeah. Yep. Wait, Lenny's got a comment that Zoe Chow is intriguing. I don't know what that's in connection to, but good point from Liz.
And Nina Mazursky in Creature Commandos. She's the
Oh.
Gill woman. Thing.
Yes.
But yeah,
she's
definitely intriguing.
Yes,
she
her
reminds me of
character's very
Ratcatcher
intriguing.
too, and she's
Mhm.
awesome. So
Yes. Now speaking of Creature Commandos, there are individuals out there, as the DC Film News account on Threads pointed out, who are just ignoring the embargo just for the sake of getting clicks on their reviews, and they're putting out spoilers because a lot of the critics
suck.
got a lot of critics got early access to the series, and not only did they just give them like the first couple of episodes, they gave them the whole thing. So a lot of the critics have seen the entire series, and their reviews, are now just behind an embargo. You gotta
Mistake
wait
number
until
one.
that embargo is done to be able to put that out. This is very common. They do it for all they do it for movies, they do it for TV shows. It's very common. Like even Agatha all along, I think the critics have to see like the first 4 episodes or something. So it's very, very common to do this. However, what's not very common is like spoilers start to leak out and people are doing that. So it is disappointing, but I just wanted to put this out. If you happen to be watching and you were one of the people who got to see the show early,
don't be an asshole.
Exactly. The embargo lifts, I believe, on like December 2nd or something. It's like literally the week that the show comes out. And you can wait until that long. I mean, if you have your thoughts, just kind of share them in a non-spoilery way. But, the show is now, what, like 2.5 weeks? Maybe, I think it's more like closer to just 2 weeks away. So let's just
this
wait,
Thursday, it'll
and
be 2 weeks away.
Exactly. We're getting so close. So like you can wait a little bit longer. I just wanted to kind of like quickly remind everybody, and if you want to go out and seek spoilers on your own, by all means do that. Now, let's get into the big story that of DCU Daily specifically that I wanted to get into today, which is James Gunn sort of clarified what is and what isn't canon in Peacemaker season 2, and in terms of like what from the season 1 is part of the DCU versus what is no longer part of the new universe that they're creating. So he said that almost all of Peacemaker is canon, with the exception of Captain Obvious would say Justice League. That whole cameo with the "fuck you Barry" and Jason Momoa and of course Barry Allen's Flash, which those two are the only actors they actually got. And for Superman and Wonder Woman, they just had like stand-ins.
They were the cheapest ones.
They were the cheapest.
No one. Yeah.
They're the cheapest ones. But like also James Gunn continues on to say like, okay, so almost all of Peacemaker is canon, as in Peacemaker season 1 is canon with the exception of Justice League, which we will kind of deal with in the next season of Peacemaker. So to me, obviously the first part of it is informational, but the second part of it is spicy. Like I want to know what that actually means. Like somebody explain to me what he means. Does that mean they're gonna like actually address it with like a line of dialogue? Is there gonna be more of a like a constantly really poking fun at Arrow kind of a thing throughout the whole season? Like what do you think?
It'd be really awesome.
Well, they did that already.
Yeah,
it would be really cool if like the team, if it's like everything's the same, but the team that shows up is the Authority.
Oh,
and it's all in silhouette because I think at this point none of the cast is cast. So it would be awesome if like all of them were in silhouette, and it was like, imagine if like it was the same footage and everything. Like, you're too fucking late, asshole. It's just John Cena holding up Amelia Harcourt, and it's the same, but it's like recognizable. Like you see like Apollo and Midnighter and Jenny Sparks. And of course, all these people like, and then maybe you can like insert a fucking like ADR line of John Cena being like, the authority of my dick, you fucking assholes, and then just like walking off, just like having that would be kind of fun. Or Maxwell Lord's, Terrifics or whatever the hell they're going to be called, like as we see like Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl, like maybe it's the three of them. That could be kind of funny. I think the Authority would be awesome though, like really teasing that. but I think that would be funny, and really show like, hey, this is still happening. We just haven't gotten a writer yet, or we haven't gotten a proper script yet, but the Authority's still happening, and that's the only team that we know of outside of like the like team of like Maxwell Lord's people that have Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific, and Metamorpho. By the way, I forgot about Metamorpho.
That's true.
Yeah, that could be.
Yep. I keep forgetting he's in the movie. I literally keep
because
forgetting
we didn't see Anthony Kerrigan.
We didn't see any
set,
photos.
so
Yeah, exactly.
we always forgot about him. Sorry, Anthony Kerrigan. We love you. We appreciate you. I mean, I would love to. I would, having a real job would be nice, but they don't want to hire me. Sorry, guys.
I mean, it's also James Gunn has said like it's not like it's an open call for writers. Like you got to be really good at your job, and even then, it's they will come to you. You won't usually don't go to them. He specifically answered that question from a fan about how they hire writers and producers for their shows. But yeah, John, actually, Lenny has a question for you. What do you think?
Yes.
Do you think the Waller will be in the Authority, like Amanda Waller's character?
I'm at this point, I wouldn't be shocked. It's a team. You gotta have Amanda Waller in it, apparently, because
I like
Squad,
it. I like the
Future
connection. I
Commandos.
like her showing up in all these things. I
mean, I like it, but there's only so much I can like. I just want to see a team that Amanda Waller isn't involved in. Like, I would like to see, it's just Jenny. Well, at first, it was Jenny Sparks' team. She was the head of that team. So have her be the head of that team, not have fucking Amanda Waller in every goddamn project. So she has her own show. Keep her. She's in.
Hey, maybe she and Amanda end up like duking it out at some point or something. You never know. Like there could be something going on with
It could be.
Trying to
like
be on top.
Well, look, what I will say to this quote from James Gunn, which is again, this is a shortened quote. There's like the ellipses in the middle, the three dots. So James Gunn had more to say than this, and you can find the article on IGN. But the fact that, of course, he's very clearly saying, and in a way that's a little tongue in cheek, like, well, duh, the Justice League is not part of canon to the new Peacemaker, the new DCU, but we're gonna deal with it in the new season. So I'm sure they're gonna reference it somehow. Come on, Joe. You know what? You should have said Zack Snyder, not Zaslav. But it works. It works. Your sarcasm has been on point today. I do appreciate though that James Gunn is addressing this head on now, because I remember, John, for the longest time we were like, he needs to address this. We need some answers, and I feel like this is the most direct response that we have gotten from James Gunn on this matter since the very beginning, and he continued to sort of like clarify other things like this. Now, speaking of which, John, I just want to take a quick detour for a second. We've got like all of these projects now lined up, and we were going to talk about Marvel's output, like how they're going to slow down in 2026 in terms of how many movies and TV shows they're going to put out. And I feel like, obviously the focus is going to be on quality, and I think like that's what DC is doing here too. And I just wanted to, because I saw this post, and it sort of just puts it in perspective, everything that's currently either in production, post-production, or about to go into production. And of course, Creature Commandos is almost coming out. Superman is in post-production. Peacemaker is finishing filming. Supergirl and Lanterns are both going to start filming next year, similar to Avengers, Doomsday, and even the Spider-Man 4, I believe, is starting to film next year. So you've got a lot of these projects that are in the works. What do you think about just, again, the quantity of projects? Because you look at it now, there's only 2 for next year and the year after for DC, and we just don't. I mean, beyond that, of course, we've got smaller things that are not connected to the larger DC Studios brand, like Batman, the Caped Crusader, and like Harley Quinn, and maybe another season of Kite Man. But I like that they're starting out slow here and building it up, and hopefully over time they'll pick up, like where Marvel is, where they want to put out 2 to 3 movies a year, 3 to 4 series a year, whereas DC is clearly, they're trying to ramp up rather than sort of like putting their foot down on the gas pedal and immediately put out like 3 or 4 movies and TV shows each year. And Liz, I also want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about just they're starting off slow? They're gonna see how these do. Like, what are your thoughts on the approach that they have?
For me, especially with today's technology and how easy it is and quickly we're churning things out, I think it's a good sign when they take time in between projects, because it means that, at least I would hope it means that they're taking the time to do the projects justice, to do it right, to get everything to fall into place before they bring it into theaters. That's what I'm hoping their plan is and their reasoning for, slowing down a little bit here. Same thing with Marvel. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this because I think it's just such a perfect way to describe these things. When Hulk Hogan was in his prime in the very beginnings of WWE, even though he was everybody's favorite, he was the All-American, people still got sick of seeing him every single week, right? So it's the same thing. You don't want to just completely oversaturate. Again, Wicked has wonderful, content out there right now. Everybody's looking forward to the film coming up. I already have my ticket. I'm sick and tired of Wicked. It's the same thing. You don't want to see it over and over and over again and just kind of be reminded that, oh yeah, there's content out there that I'm missing. I haven't been able to get to it yet. It's more to add to your list. Space it out. There's nothing wrong with that. And most people only see 1 to 2 movies in the theaters throughout the year anyway. So I think the pacing is good. I'm glad Marvel's scaling back as well. I have been saying that regardless of whether or not I'm a Marvel stan. I have been saying they've been putting out too much too soon. So I think this is all pointing in the right direction for both sides.
Exactly. I mean, especially through the Bob Chapek era, they put out like 18 things in 2 years. It was way too much.
Right. It was
but John, yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And then John, like Josh said, the DCU really is cooking. Of course, we don't know what they're quite cooking yet. We haven't tasted any of it. But when we do, what are your thoughts about the fact that, again, they're trying to take it slow? Because, for example, next year, we're going to get Superman, and then we're going to get Peacemaker. And then, I mean, Creature Commandos is going to be done airing by the time we get to the new year, pretty much. I think there might be 1 episode or something like that. But we're really not getting a ton, right? Like, whereas we're getting 3 Marvel movies next year, we're getting 5 TV shows, which they're going to slow down the year after. But do you think, again, DC's focus on quality over quantity is the right decision early on, especially, right? Right, because unlike the DCEU, where they gave us a whole slate of movies at a Comic-Con, most of which never actually happened. Like, do you think this is the right way to approach it now? Like, kind of the opposite of what they did before?
I think so. Like, greenlighting like 17 projects at once is just not the way to go. I don't think it's just not how, like, don't get me wrong, like the efficiency of Marvel can work, like giving us a lot, like building this world and doing all these things. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. It just, I prefer the quality over quantity over the well-oiled machine, in my personal opinion. Like, I want to see like quality. I don't want to see like a random TV director getting, or like an indie director that has like 2 movies under his name and then immediately jumping to Marvel. That's just not the way to do it. Like, you gotta like ease into it. You gotta like at least with someone like Craig Gillespie, he's recently did Cruella, which was relatively a bigger budgeted Disney production. So it's like, okay, then do that. And then you also have, Lanterns in terms of TV. You had Chris Mundy, who worked on a whole bunch of stuff, but like he was already a showrunner of a different show. So it's like, okay, you have that as well. And Superman, that's by James Gunn, who's worked on like 4 or 5 big blockbusters, so he knows how to do that. So that's what I hope that they keep going for. Whoever they do, like Andy Muschietti, I mean, he worked on 3 big budget movies, 2 of which were big budget horror movies, and a previous superhero project, not a good one, but at least he has like he has the clout, I guess. He has like the kind of, okay, he has the experience, whether it's good or bad depends on the person, but he has that experience. So like, okay, I will give them that. Like, obviously, and then Creature Commandos is James Gunn heavy and all that. So right. I think it is a I think that's get people with experience, and like that's really that's what I've hated about Marvel. Yeah, they've gotten like some of the screen, like Jeff Loveness has been like, oh, he wrote a couple Venom comics like 10 years ago. It's like, all right, that doesn't make him a fucking screenwriter though. Like, okay, cool, he worked on some Marvel stuff. That doesn't mean he should do that. Very rarely do novel writers or comic book writers make that jump properly. Like, I like, as much as it would be awesome, like, oh yeah, have Scott Snyder write the new Batman movie. It's like, no, don't get me wrong, Scott Snyder is amazing, but like he doesn't have screenwriting experience. So I would say get someone like John Logan was rumored like fucking a year ago that he was going to be doing Brave and the Bold. That would be good. He has the, he wrote a whole bunch of great movies. So it's like, why not?
Yeah, no, I think you have a good.
So that's essentially what I'm saying.
It's a good point, because I think
the experience is better as well.
It is, and this is where what the Bob Chapek era of Disney, when they put out like those 18 projects in Phase 4 over 2 or 3 years, in the pandemic era even. The problem was, like, when you go from doing 2 or 3 movies a year and maybe like 2 or 3 shows a year to doing 5 shows a year and 4 movies a year, there's still the same pool of talent you're picking from, right? It's not like all of a sudden Hollywood is gonna like have like 100,000 more options for you to pick from, especially like as far as like the top tier goes.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
There's fewer of those, like, so basically what would happen is, for like the first, after the first 2 movies and the first 2 TV shows, you've kind of gone through the top tier talent you would have picked for all of the TV shows and movies, and now because you have to still make those movies and TV shows, because again the focus was on quantity over quality, you just start to pick like people who are less experienced, and then there's less supervision. Like Kevin Feige is unfortunately not a robot, despite what some people might think. He can't pay as close attention and supervise every project if there's 10 of them a year versus 4 or 5 of them a year. And I think that's where Marvel has now started to kind of really correct the boat and kind of take it in the right direction. At the same time, I think DC and James Gunn, having been in the world of the MCU, knows this, and that's why I think his approach is different. And he's saying, you know what, we're gonna only hire the best of the best, right? Like it's like, for example, that God of War TV series just hired like the creator of Battlestar Galactica, right? The Battlestar Galactica, not the one from the 80s and 90s. No, Ronald D. Moore.
All right,
Battlestar Galactica.
Let's not shit on him before. I'm just saying.
Man.
I'm just saying.
I love Ronald D. Moore. Don't get me wrong. Ronald D. Moore, great. But don't be shitting on the 1980s.
It was a very different show. But like, here's the thing. Like, they got talent, right? Like, they got the best of the best to work on that new God of War series, where the previous executive producers were pretty good to an experience, but Ronald D. Moore is a different like tier, right? Like, he's top tier. For All Mankind, Battlestar Galactica, God of War, right? Like, I'm like in that, it's gonna be in that company. I think that's the approach that James Gunn is taking now. He's like, he wants only the best of the best, and he wants a story that he loves. Now, still, he's willing to give people with less experience a chance, like Anna Nogueira writing Woman of Tomorrow, because her story concept was really strong, and the script she delivered was really strong. So there's still opportunity for people with less experience to get in, but it's just the focus is, again, on quality over quantity, and I'm really glad that that's the case. Now, with that said, guys, let's kind of continue on, because James Gunn also has been very busy on social media. Speaking of which, I was mentioning earlier, the man is like going back and forth between Superman and Peacemaker. Like, he's still finishing filming
with the private jet going back and forth. Why is no one going after him for climate change
I don't know.
issues?
I'm like, well, maybe it's because the company's paying for it.
Fruit. That's why.
I also don't think this is him paying for it himself. It's probably like a company travel thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, with that in mind, of course, it's just fun to see again that James Gunn is like keeping us apprised of the progress, because last week he wrapped majority of the cast members, but John Cena and maybe some of the other cast. I don't think Frank Grillo wrapped, so we still have John Cena and maybe Frank Grillo and
Frank just got there.
Yeah, well, Frank Grillo actually, if I remember correctly, John, no, Frank Grillo was one of the names he mentioned, right? That got wrapped from the show.
Maybe.
So it looks like it's just John Cena and maybe like a few other characters, and we're gonna get into some set photos, because I know there's at least one other character in the show that's still filming. So the show isn't done filming, but the show is shooting in Atlanta, and Superman is in post-production in LA, but the Warner Brothers lot is. So James Gunn is doing these crisscrossing the country back and forth for both, which is insane, because I just remember him being on set, like we talked about it early last week, and he ended up in LA during the week, and then he's flown all the way back to Atlanta over the weekend. It's crazy, the schedule that he keeps up, and of course, his wife is there right alongside with him. The two of them have just been getting all their miles.
Names, by the way, just confirming. Yes, Frank Grillo was one.
He
was
one of them. Exactly.
Daniel Brooks, Freddie Stroma, Robert Patrick, aka the T1000. Frank Grillo, David Denman, Anissa Matlock, Taylor St. Clair, and Dorian Kingi were the ones who were wrapped filming.
Right.
Anybody who's not on that list is still filming, which is John Cena. Anyway.
I do love John Cena, and I'm going to be very closely following his farewell tour that starts next year and ends at WrestleMania in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, I don't know how to connect that to this story. James Gunn did deny a rumor that Nicholas Hoult will reportedly appear as a young Lex Luthor in the new Creature Commandos TV show. He said it's not true. Plenty of fun appearances in Creature Commandos, but no Lex, young or otherwise, and CC, aka Creature Commandos, happens only months before Superman. John, what do you think this means? Does this mean that we're not only not going to see Lex, but are we going to get a lot of cameos? Like he's saying,
we're going to get Snowflame,
guys.
We're going to do it. We're going to get Snowflame.
I just want to confirm.
No,
okay.
Just kidding.
Wow. Now you're spreading rumors. Now James gonna have to be like, John, it's not true.
If it gets Daddy Gunn to talk to me, then sure.
We're getting a stack of cease and desist letters coming down the line.
It's from every which direction, it seems like. But hey, it's good to know that we're not getting I mean, at least now we know the first appearance for Lex Luthor in this universe is gonna be in the Superman movie, which I think makes all the sense in the world, of course.
Sure,
but that's
heaven forbid we use any other villain ever. Okay. Yeah.
Well, but he's not the only villain in the movie, right? Like they're gonna have Ultraman, they have one of the Authority characters, right? I forget the Engineer, and then we still don't know. There's supposedly some big monster alien that is big that Superman's meant to fight at some point in the movie, which they shot a lot of in Cleveland. So we had all the photos from that. Now James Gunn also had some, a bit of a downer news for us, unfortunately, and then people have started asking DC fandom, please, DC fandom. Because CCXP in Brazil is coming up, and James Gunn, everybody I'm sure has been asking him, we have been asking him, are you going to be there? Is he going to show up? Is DC going to have a presentation? Of course, he was last at New York Comic Con, but he skipped San Diego, and he's been busy. We just talked about the fact that he's flying back and forth across the country from East to the West Coast 2 or 3 times a week. So he said he's not attending. Yeah.
I just have to say, this comes up at every freaking Comic-Con. I don't understand what it is about like fans that don't get things like schedules and jobs and commitments and contracts, because it happens all the time. New York, Rhode Island, why can't you guys get this person? Why can't you guys get this? It's not them going to these celebrities and saying, hey, we'll see in November. The celebrities have to be available. Like shit, like they all work just like we work. They're on a schedule. Sometimes they can make it, sometimes they can't. It just drives me crazy when the fans are constantly like, I don't understand why they're not coming to New York. Because they have lives, because they have jobs, and because maybe they don't give a shit about coming to the Comic-Cons. Like it's just, it gets brought up so much that I just needed to address it for a second with this post, because it drives me absolutely bananas. Like they act like these cons have all this control. If the fans say we want this guy there, well, he should be there this year. What the hell? It's like, no, people have shit to do. Stuff happens. I can't film every day with you guys and talk this stuff. Same thing. He has stuff to do.
Meanwhile, I just have no life, so.
Like but you know what I mean? Like, what more do you want from these freaking celebs? You want these amazing projects, but then you also want them to come. You want to stand in line for 3 hours to pay $100 to shake their hand. Well, you can't have both. You gotta calm down.
It's fair, and it's fair, and you know what? It makes sense, right? Like because he went to New York Comic Con and said while he was at the panel that he had just been filming Peacemaker, and then he's going back to film Peacemaker after the Comic-Con.
Yeah, he didn't meet any fans there. He was just there for the panel. That was it.
Exactly. But he made it to New York because if he's filming in Atlanta, it's like a 4 or 5 hour flight up and down. Yeah. So like it's doable, right? Like it's also domestic, so you're not flying into a different country. Whereas here, Brazil would be a much farther he's gonna have to go all the way to Sao Paulo, Brazil. So he said, and you know he did. It's not like didn't make an effort. He said, sadly,
he probably couldn't bring the dog.
But he did say, I tried to work it out because of a million schedule conflicts. I won't be able to make the CCXP this year. One of my favorite places in the world. Blessed from the start. He didn't say that. But, he does like to say it. With some of my favorite people. So people have now been asking for, might as well do DC Fandom because everybody's just clamoring for, that big slate reveal, more news, a big panel. But you know what? I'm okay if they don't do that until the San Diego Comic-Con next year or like another Comic-Con next year, because right now they've got so many things going on and most of them James Gunn has got a hand in. It just makes sense that they stick to making all the product, as it were, rather than trying to get James Gunn to go to these different countries and cons. And he's busy enough as it is. Does that mean we won't get any DC news at CCXP? I don't know,
No,
because
absolutely not.
they still have Warner Brothers like panels there, and they might still have a DC panel. It might be like James Gunn just sends in a video or a photo. Because if you guys remember at San Diego Comic Con, James Gunn didn't show up, but that's where we got the DC logo reveal, right? Like that's where we got the new DC Studio shirt and everything. So he can still take part from a distance, and we have seen that happen before. It's just Kevin Feige and James Gunn, people like to compare the two as being the equivalents, but whereas Kevin Feige is more of like a producer, James Gunn, while he is a producer, he's still more of a storyteller, filmmaker. So he's really more, boots on the ground. He's directing episodes of Peacemaker. He's editing Superman. He directed Superman. He's been very closely involved in Creature Commandos. He has a more of a creative role, and that ties him up with these projects. So he can't really show up to all these events like Kevin Feige was at D23 Brazil, because while Kevin Feige will be on set and working with the directors, he doesn't. It's not like if Kevin Feige's not on the set of, let's say, Captain America 4, that the movie can't film, because the movie has a director, and it's not Kevin Feige. So I think to that end, it makes sense that James is going to skipping these for now, and then he might still make an appearance remotely or send in a video or something like that. And I think that would be perfect.
I'm waiting for Feige and Gunn to challenge each other to fisticuffs, a la Elon and Zuckerberg, because it just seems like those are the two guys now, and I'm just like, it's inevitable. In like 5 years, they're going to talk about cage matches or some shit, and
they're just gonna hug it out. I mean,
they're the two
there's
guys.
no animosity there, because like
No,
Kevin
there's true,
Feige
there's not.
wanted James Gunn to be his right hand man for the
Yeah.
MCU before the whole firing and rehiring thing happened. So I don't think there's any bad blood there. But
No, I think we're all good.
yeah, and I was gonna say that same IGN article we were looking at or talking about earlier, where James Gunn we've been getting a lot of quotes about whether it's Peacemaker canon or rated R projects in the DCU. That same article, James Gunn also talked about when we're gonna be getting a Lanterns release, Sean. So he said that Lanterns will release around the same time as Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Now, both projects are set to go into production early next year. One of them, of course, Lanterns being a TV show, and then Supergirl being a movie. So, and they're both scheduled for 2026 release dates. We know that Supergirl comes out in, I believe it's July 26, 2026. I might be wrong about the exact date, but it's July 2026. What we don't know is when Lanterns comes. June 26. Okay, so it's June. Sorry, I was off by a month. But we don't know when Lanterns actually comes out, but James Gunn had this to say. He said, we'll see when it comes out, but Lanterns and Supergirl are around the same time. So he's a little bit non-committal, but he doesn't say that one is coming out in the summer and the other's coming out in the fall. Right. So would you care to speculate how far apart the two will get released? Or do you think that James Gunn is just sort of giving a very, they haven't actually picked out a date, so he's just saying, oh yeah, he just means it's 2026 more or less?
I were to guess, it would probably be the summer, because I made the assumption that Peacemaker season 2 would come out in the fall, because that's usually when the TV season starts, even though that's kind of gone out the window because of streaming and all that. It's just that's usually when it started with cable TV, at least. So if I were to guess, if it's starting at around the same time, Peacemaker and Superman started filming at around the same time, maybe a few months later, I would imagine that I wouldn't be shocked if Supergirl came out in June. Poor Lenny will be very upset, but I think Lanterns, I think coming out a couple weeks later in July would make sense, especially with Peacemaker coming out a month later than Superman next year. So yeah, as the Watcher said, I think it's going to be July. Show following a movie, and both are kind of cosmic characters. They kind of fit. So Supergirl is actually going to take place in space, and then Lanterns is going to take place first on Earth and hopefully eventually in space if the mystery leads there. That's what they're insinuating. But I feel like that makes sense. I feel like that makes sense because it's, that's what we got. But hey, James could be like, no, you idiots. I'm actually going to have it that Lanterns comes out first. Fuck you guys. So, it could be like James Gunn loves to tease us a lot. So it could be that. But like whatever it is, I think like around the same time, I think it will come out June, July for Lanterns. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Yep. I think it could work. Like I think it was the Watcher who mentioned, like, and you addressed it too, that it could work to sort of have them be staggered just enough that you go from one to the next, right? Like I think it would make all the sense in the world. And Lanterns will air for a good 2 months time, so I'm sure it will be something you can catch up on, especially if you're late comer to the show. Now, we have been kind of bouncing back and forth between all the different projects that are active. I did find this meme today, which I thought was just perfect, because the DCU is around the corner indeed, and and of course George Costanza is. I keep getting told that I have a George Costanza wallet because I do have I have a really thick big wallet. I don't carry one of those like trifold ones. It's like an old school one. I do have it on my. I don't put it in my butt pocket though, because that would be very uncomfortable. But. But George Costanza is clearly focused. He's like, I gotta focus. I'm shifting into Creature Commandos mode, and I think we should be too. I did want to get your opinions on
Jerry, I'm in Creature Commandos mode now. Jerry, I'm into this now. I am into this now. All right, Kramer, shut up. Jerry, I gotta tell you. I'm in Creature Commandos mode now.
You're getting a little Rain Man there, babe.
I'm a little. I apologize. I went a little bit too fast, but you know how it is. I mean, I've been compared to George Costanza in the past, but I don't have a receipt wallet though, where I fold it and then it explodes. But the look, maybe, I guess. I don't know. He's balding. I'm bald. It works, right? I'm paranoid. I'm anxiety. I can't hold down a job. It's. I can't hold down a girlfriend. It's all. I feel like I match George Costanza's energy in a lot of aspects. And I am in Creature Commandos mode right now because I know we're not getting any animated stuff coming out this month. Definitely not. So,
yeah. Lenny, you should do that watch party on the DCU.
Is it going to be the Oh So Curious Discord server or the DCU Daily Discord?
Oh, you know what? We gotta settle that debate sometime. But Lenny, you should definitely do that on the Discord server that we're putting together because it's gonna be lots of fun.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that in 2 weeks, but we'll try our best.
Well, you know what? When there's a will, there's a way. That's how I like to say it. But with that said, we do have just one or two more things to get into. There's one more James Gunn related item, but then there's two technically. Then before we get to the last.
Oh no.
Dan.
Hey Liz, how you doing today?
Hello, John. We were just gonna talk about Tim Meadows on set. There he is.
So sorry. There's
Guys, if it happens to us, don't be mad when it happens to Netflix. Come on.
He's after me. I swear to God, like the penguin is after me today. There's something going on.
You did it to yourself, Dan. You did it to yourself.
I just I thought I was being clever and that but still the point remains. Fuck the penguin. So Tim Meadows.
Not to watch season 2. Okay.
Yeah. Just stop, okay? Let's move on.
So Tim Meadows over here with a bunch of school kids.
I by the way, I loved him from the Goldbergs. That's where I really loved his character. He was like the principal
you don't remember him from,
of the
Saturday
school.
Night Live? He's been.
I do remember Saturday Night Live, but I really love
Tim Meadows is just a brilliant man. He's so funny. 30 Rock. He was on 30 Rock. He's just the best. He was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
He was. Oh my God, Nine-Nine.
Right?
Yeah. We need the Brooklyn Nine-Nine reunion. But anyway, Tim Meadows was on the set of Peacemaker today, and James Gunn then I think reshared these photos and his stories on Instagram, and so I just really loved seeing that they're still not only just filming, but clearly today was a busy day on the set. Like they had a whole bunch of kids from the Appalachia High School. So John, I would like to ask you what you think was going on set. Was there are they all extras in some kind of big sequence, or were they just kind of visiting the set? What do you think was going on the Peacemaker?
I remember seeing on James Gunn's threads that there was.
He's right there in the photo.
There he is. Look at his white ass hair. But yeah, there was apparently a visit to the set. The students from Chi Nation They visited the Peacemaker set today. It was a joy hosting you. James Gunn posted that. So it seems like that's from, this is from today. And, this is a bunch of students. So, yeah, it seems like the case. He's looking like a black J. Jonah Jameson, though, with the haircut and the mustache a little bit. Like, he kind of has that vibe. Just like, the crew cut, like, crew top thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But he kind of has that vibe a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm looking forward to his character. I don't remember what his character is going to be in the movie.
Some agent.
Whenever he shows up, the roles that he plays, I'm sure is going to be something hilarious, and he's
always something
actor.
wild. Yeah, he's great.
I'm into it. Like, I want to see what that looks like, and it's just fun to see again more of an inside look at the show, and they're clearly still in deep in filming the show, and it's said. I think James Gunn said it's gonna wrap soon, like maybe in a week or so, but clearly they're still very much got a lot to do. So there is this one more thing that, John, you shared with me. So I'm gonna have you kind of tell us a little bit more about it, and then Liz, we can get your take on this too. There was a report, somebody was asking James Gunn about this, that there was reported a while back that Matt Reeves has already finished the script for the Batman 2. Mm-hmm. Is that really true? I think Matt Reeves confirmed this by himself, by the way, or sort of has been a little coy, but more or less confirmed it. And then James Gunn today said, I think that report was well-intentioned, but it was mistaken. We are very much looking forward to it. So James Gunn is now saying that the script is actually not done. So what is it? Is it is the script not? How much longer does Matt Reeves need to be in his basement to actually finish the script? I think
the man just needs to, we just need to kidnap him, just throw him in a basement somewhere, lock the door, and just go full Stephen King for a weekend and just write the damn thing, because this is getting ridiculous, bro. It's been 2 years. Like, Stephen King has pumped out 15 books in this amount of time. James Patterson has probably pumped out 100 books in this amount of time. Just like, bro, like, come on, man, just fucking finish this thing. It's not rocket science. It's a Batman movie. Like, I understand you want to make it good, you want to make it great, you want to make it better, but like, there's only so much you could do for like 2 fucking years. It's like, I'm gonna write 1 word per day. Like, that's kind of the vibe. But even then, we would have gotten it by now, but I don't know. It's just like, bro, like, get your head out of your ass. Come on now. What do you think? Because I'm just like, how?
I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. To me, it's like, I'm not a writer. I'm not trying to make a movie. If Kevin Smith can come and decide 20 years later he's going to make a Dogma 2, you know what? Some writers write fast. Some writers need a little time. They gotta, maybe get a little, blockage, whatever. I don't care. As long as it's a good movie, and I'm sure that it will be. As everybody knows, I loved the Batman, so I'm looking forward to the Batman 2. This to me is not news. This is just people whining, like, okay, if you want the Batman 2, then you fucking write it. You know what I'm saying? So
I will.
I don't care.
At this point, I could probably start from scratch, make
your time, babe. Well, because again, we have other projects that are. It's not like we don't have other content to enjoy. So everybody shut up. Exactly. R.R. Martin, like, leave it alone. Who cares? Like, let them write how they write, and they're going to put it out, and we're all going to be happy, and we're all going to buy it. And so shut up. You're not going to see it because they took a month longer than you needed. Get out of here. You're all going to go see it.
It seems like he's been writing it for like 2 years, and it's like, how much longer?
Who cares? I don't care. I'm going to see it. I don't care. Take as much time as you need. If it comes out like a big turd, that's another story.
People are upset. They already delayed the damn thing.
Listen, if it comes out like an absolute piece of shit, then that's another story. Then by all means, look at him and go, it took you 2-3 years? What the fuck? Totally justifiable. But if it comes out and it's a good film, nobody's gonna remember how long it took between the Batman and Batman 2. Who cares?
Lenny's saying you're going full Mrs. Maisel today, and honestly, with your tone of voice, I can kind of hear it a little bit.
Sure, why not?
I mean, especially with Rachel Brosnahan being in Superman, so it works.
I mean, and Zachary Levi was in that show. DC, why not?
Yeah. I don't know who else was in that show. I can't think of anybody. Like Tony Shalhoub, but he wasn't in DC related, so I don't know. But
anyway.
Moving
on. I don't care. It's not news.
Moving on.
I'm not sitting here on my computer like,
when are we getting because
Dan's having all kinds of. Again, you guys, if it can happen to us, don't be surprised when it happens to Netflix 60 million times over. It's It is what it is, gang. We're not multimillionaires, so we got to work with what we got.
Yeah. I assume he's going out and redoing his router. So,
Who knows? Who knows? So what else do we have to talk about? Are we going to get into Marvel stuff or no? What are we doing?
I think we are. We
Okay.
should.
Sure.
I assume so. I mean, unless we already talked about, didn't we already talk about Marvel stuff?
Well, there's that quote from Elizabeth Olsen about why she's continuing to come back to Marvel, which again, is that news, you guys? Do we care about an off quote about Marvel treats me right and I'm happy to go back? I don't
It's
understand.
like, oh, hey, I make money at Marvel, so I'm going to continue to do that.
I'm saying, like, should I come on here and talk about why I'm still a loyal customer to Verizon and Capital One? Like, if you treat me right, I'm going to be loyal to you. Bottom line, not so far-fetched of a concept. I don't understand how this crap is front page news. Who cares? Good for you. You still have a job. That's great. Glad you're making money. Glad glad they're writing for you. Okay. We already know with Agatha all along, and now we're getting Agatha all along, season 2 coming out. We know we're gonna see Wanda again. So
it's like, oh, she's dead. Yeah, okay. In comic books, when has that ever been the case? If the Waynes, Jor-El, and Uncle Ben are not safe anymore, then nobody is safe. All right. That was the joke for years. Krypton stays dead. Dwayne stay dead, Uncle Ben stay dead. All 3 of those motherfuckers are alive.
Well, and again, is Blade dead or not? That's what I want. That's the news I'm looking for.
Well, apparently it's really fucking hard for Marvel
give a shit about
to make
Elizabeth Olsen
guy
being
who
happy
kills
with
vampires.
I want to know about Blade. What's happening?
It's like Marvel can't seem to wrap their head around guy who kills vampires. Like that's like too fucking bonkers for them.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Dan, what do you want to talk about? We covered Elizabeth Olsen. It's not news. Who cares?
Really? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, it was pretty small, minor stuff, but I mean, yeah.
Who cares? Because they cut her a fat check because she's got a job. She likes the character. Move along. It's not. This is not like mind-boggling information. This is why I get annoyed with the fandom, you guys. This is why I can never be like a hardcore, because what a waste of my day worrying this one-off quote, and this is front page news. Get out of here, you guys. Get a life. I'm telling you.
I will look. I agree with you because all she really said was like nothing that we haven't heard from a ton of other actors before. That hey, look, I did those big movies because they gave me a chance to then kind of go do all the smaller movies that I really wanted to do, and it was like it's a good way for me to kind of balance things out.
No one's going to Leonardo and being like, why do you keep working with Scorsese? Like, obviously,
I don't know. Maybe
they get along and shit works
living
well.
filmmaker right now.
Right,
so it's like,
but even like no one's going to all the Kevin Smith guys and being like, why do you keep coming back for his movies? Because I enjoy it and they pay me. With Doy, like, okay. Please, get out of here.
And also, Lenny was asking you, Liz, do you think there is fatigue with superheroes, or do you think that DC may renew interest?
Like I keep saying, I think there's fatigue with the same fucking people. How many Lex Luthor versions are we getting? Like, Superman has a whole lexicon of villains and side characters and all the and other heroes that we can bring in. And the same thing with Marvel too, which is why when we got Endgame, they said, okay, we have to start moving along with the storyline. So we are seeing other side characters getting their moments now, but those are eventually going to lead to other characters as well. Because we do. We're getting sick again, just like the election, just like Wicked. We're getting sick and fucking tired of seeing these damn people on our screens every 5 fucking minutes and all throughout our stores. Please, my Target has gone from white and red to pink and green, and I'm ready to blow my brains out. Really. Still, I'm going to see the film. I'm going to love it. But I'm ready to blow my brains out, you guys. Move along. There's plenty of other things going on in this world that we could be talking about. So yes, I think clearly I'm fatigued with it. So I think audiences in general are like, cool, make another movie. I'll go see it. I'll enjoy it. Move along. Next. Come on. Sorry, that's just me. I am also really tired, you guys.
We're
almost 1 a.m.
Yeah, we're getting close to home here. But I did want to quickly say once again, it looks like I swear to God, man, Ron, it's like I feel like Oz is literally standing outside the house where the all the electric meters are, and he's like cutting wires, and like that's what's causing all the shit. But you know what? I'm gonna fight the good fight. Fuck the Penguin. Still, it's up there. I swear, Oz.
Oh well, there he gets
Oh,
cut
he did it.
again.
He did it.
He gets
I'm
cut
telling
again.
you, I will stand with Dan, and I will come in with my Harvey Dent is a dick shirt next
So
week.
stupid.
And I mean, what are you doing,
Oh,
bro?
God.
Will Smith, the Penguin. You've got too many.
That was me.
enemies
That was
right
me
now,
that
my friend.
time. I removed him from the stream. That was me. I had to turn.
Wow.
It was comedic
Wow.
timing. It was
Oh,
too
Lordy,
perfect.
Lord.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
The timing was perfect. The timing was literally perfect. It was like
I can't
gone.
with you guys. I
It's
can't.
just okay. Well, we do have a couple of more, I guess, more
Although, Liz,
relevant
you're
news
scaring
pieces.
Lenny, so just be
Yeah,
careful.
relevant, please. Something relevant.
Something a little more relevant. So we have been sort of hinting at this, or we were literally talking about it all show. But let's get into it a little more directly, right? Because this is coming straight from the horse's mouth, from Kevin Feige himself. Bob Iger, when he Kevin Feige has gotten all of his powers back as a studio boss since Bob Iger returned a few years ago and put the creatives back in charge, unlike what Bob Chapek did. Now, Bob Iger, even a year or so ago, I think when the last D23 or I think it was an investors call, he said that, look, we're gonna focus on quality over quantity, and if that means we're putting less stuff out, that's what that means, because that's essentially been the problem that landed them in a lot of hot water post-pandemic, because they were putting out, like you said, Liz, it's hard to keep up with everything, particularly when it's meant to feel like, because the MCU for years has felt like it's must-watch movies or must-watch TV. But nowadays you just never know, because you watch something and it might be like the Marvels, which was felt pretty mediocre, middle of the road, or you can watch not Miss Marvel, the Marvels, or you can watch Miss Marvel, which was fantastic, so one of the best things that that they've put out, or WandaVision, one of the best things they've put out, and then you can watch Moon Knight, which could not stick the landing, and then you've got something like What If, where like not all the episodes are even good. So it's been such a mixed bag that I think they need to get back to focusing on fewer movies, fewer TV shows, and focus on the quality. Now, I'm going to scroll down here in this article on the direct, because it has the actual quotes from Kevin Feige himself. So when he was asked about this, he says, I think it's safe to say that we are back to a normal pace, more or less. In the past, we had 4 films and 4 series a year. He's really just talking about like the recent past, a few years ago, but they did it for like 3 years in a row, right? And then he says, and I think we're going down to 2 films, 3 series, but that won't be the case in 2025 specifically, because of course, as we know, next year they've got 3 movies coming out, and one of them is not Blade, because it would have been 4, and of course they can't figure that out, but I'm sure you guys already had that conversation. And they've got 5 TV series coming out, but that's more of an exception to the rule. And some of those movies and TV shows are coming out in 2025 because of the writer's strike, as Antonio was talking about in the chat, and that delayed a lot of these projects. So now they're coming out in 2025. They were meant to come out this year in 2024. I think Captain America 4 was one of those projects. But next year becomes more of an exception to the rule, and now with the Fantastic Four First Steps, we're going to get into phase 6 of the MCU. And then really the focus is going to be quality over quantity, 3 movies a year, actually 2 movies a year and 3 series a year. What are your thoughts on this, Liz? Do you think this is the way to go? And then coming from Kevin Feige directly, I mean, it can't get any more official than this. What are your thoughts?
No, I completely agree. I think this is absolutely the right move. Again, my last name is Marvel. Y'all know where my loyalties lie, and I still have not caught up with all of their projects, and certainly not the TV shows that are on streaming. It got to be too much, and then it turned people off, because they would go to a theater and all of a sudden there are connections that they're not making because they didn't have the streaming service, or they didn't just get a chance to sit down and watch the show to completion. So they lost a lot of people with that. And again, the oversaturation in general, seeing the same characters over and over again, we need to space it out. Most, like we said, most audiences maybe see 1 to 2 films a year. So cranking out more than that and then having shows in between, you're not doing anybody any favors. So I'm glad that they're doing that same thing. I'm glad that DC is doing it as well. I think it's, and again, if you're taking that time to put the best content you can and come out with the best product at the end of the day, we're all the better for it. So it's fine by me.
I think that's a good point. Again, and a lot of people have the same complaint that there's so much coming out, especially now that not everything is must watch. People will sometimes skip something that they might have otherwise liked, and it's kind of hard. Like it makes Marvel's job harder to get people to watch everything that they're putting out there. Now,
Exactly.
later on in the same article, they also asked him about like, well, what about the stuff you do have already on the slate? And when you look at what they have on the slate coming up, automatically you look at it and you're like, all right, the numbers kind of dwindle after 2025 because we don't really have a ton of movies and TV shows scheduled right now. We have a lot of stuff in development, but not a lot of things have been confirmed. And Kevin Feige said when you set out to make 2 Avengers movies, they're colossal, gigantic, and consume you completely. But we have already announced a Spider-Man film that will be released between Doomsday and Secret Wars, so we know that in 2026 we're going to get Doomsday and Spider-Man 4, so Avengers Doomsday and Spider-Man 4, and then in 2027 the only movie so far we know of is Avengers Secret Wars. And now we also have a bunch of TV shows in development, so later on in this article, again, the director doing a pretty good job of like giving us a high-level overview. We still supposedly have a Blade movie in the works. Shang-Chi 2 is still in the works. Armor Wars went from being a TV show to a movie. That's still somewhere in development. And then, of course, there's, shows like the Vision Quest TV show. I think Moon Knight season 2 is either in development or they might be doing that as a movie. So there's still a bunch of other stuff that hasn't quite been officially announced, but it's in development. So what do you think that that 2026 and 2027 are going to look like now that we know they're trying to do only 2 movies a year? Do you think they're going to add another movie for 2027 alongside Secret Wars, for example?
I think what they're doing actually is I think they're waiting to see how fans react and how well they do in the box office with a lesser catalog, because if it works out in their favor and more fans flock to the theater, more fans stream the shows, then they'll stay the course. And if they need to pivot, they'll pivot. If they need to bring in different characters, they'll do that. So I think right now they're just waiting to see if this is the right move, which they should. And I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I mean, right now for me, I want to know what the hell's going on with Blade once and for all. Let's just be done with that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like that's for me. Like everything else I'm going to see, I'm looking forward to it. But it's one of those, just make a decision and stick with it and move the hell on. Like it's just goofy now. Like just, I don't understand why we keep going through this. It's been like 30 years. Like, come on.
By the way, before we continue the conversation, guys, Antonia says it all the time. Please hit the like button. It really helps us out on the show.
That's really kind,
if you have been watching, that really does help us out. And of course, we love you guys in the comments, and thanks so much for tuning in. But Magical Sky Wizard saying Armor Wars he doesn't think it's happening at this point. And I know there was a report earlier this year that both Blade and Armor Wars were potentially in the chopping block, which would make sense.
I think for that, let's see what happens with Thunderbolts. I think that's kind of, you know what I mean? I have a feeling that's, again, they're waiting to see how these newer projects do with these lesser characters. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, with that in mind, let's kind of talk about one of those 3 movies that are on the schedule for 2026 to 2027, Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4. This isn't a big piece of news, but I did want to kind of touch upon it because they sort of speculate about maybe what the story of the movie is going to be. Now, here's the thing. Working titles rarely ever tell you anything about the movie itself. In fact, they're on purpose about as vague and off the mark as they possibly can be, because they're not trying to make a big fuss about, Spider-Man 4 is filming in your neighborhood, right? But we did learn, I think there was a report out there, and so the Cosmic Circus, they kind of uncovered the working title for Spider-Man 4, which is apparently Blue Oasis, under the production company Blaze Films Incorporated. So this article in the direct was sort of speculating, does this kind of connect to the Spider-Man Blue comic? Like, where Peter Parker is sort of just depressed, really. And then it kind of brings in the Gwen Stacy character. I'm like, do you think this has any credence to it? Like, John, I know you were kind of really thinking about this. Or do you think this is just pure speculation? Because I personally think the working title has nothing to do with the movie.
I don't think it has anything to... I think it's the complete opposite, because... that's the point of a working title, as you said. Like the whole, like I remember, although not a working title, I remember when Doctor Who was getting transferred from one place to another back in the day, like when 2005, when the reboot started. In order to stop people from taking the reels, they named it Torchwood, which is an anagram for Doctor Who, which eventually, ironically, became the spinoff. So
I was gonna say, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So that's the whole point, is like to avoid these. Although now with the working title Blue Oasis, people are going to be aware of it. So when a Blue Oasis is filming, they're going to go to that because like, oh, Spider-Man. So like now I feel like there's no point in working titles anymore. It's just, I feel like I
people
guess
find out. It's not the 1990s, right? Like it's the internet exists. So yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that. That would be pretty awesome. Like get like Ghost Rider and all those guys together and just have a kick-ass
There is a
movie.
rumor that maybe that's the direction
that
they're going
is the case. Make it live action or animated. It could work both ways, but yeah, that would be awesome. Well, I don't, or just redo Hellstrom, because nobody fucking watched that show. So
that's true.
But
yeah,
I don't think that they would do Spider-Man Blue, because the whole point of Spider-Man Blue was surrounding the death of Gwen Stacy. Like it was an Elseworld story, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, kick-ass, couple of writer artist duo, amazing work. And it's all about like I think he's like on the cusp of being with MJ, but like can't, or he's with MJ, but he's like he remembers being with Gwen and like all that shit. So like that's kind of the point, is like he was with Gwen, but now she's dead.
She can't really do, because we don't have a Gwen so far.
We don't
in the
have
Tom
a
Holland
Gwen
Spider-Man
Stacy.
story.
We haven't had. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can make it so like, oh, it's because Zendaya doesn't remember me now, or not MJ.
Nobody does.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it would
I don't
make
think it's
sense.
gonna be Brand New Day.
Yeah,
that would be so. I'm so sick of the day shit.
Captain America, Brave New World, and Spider-Man, Brand New Day. It's like a whole theme now.
I'm sick of like Brand New Day and No Way Home. Like I'm sick of the home shit. I'm sick of the Brand New Day. Like that's one more day. That's a little bit close. Let's not do that. So
you know what they should do? They should call it The Spider-Man.
Yeah. The Spider-Man.
We'll see. Yeah. But I mean, I do.
I am the web.
I do understand why people think it's going to be like like Spider-Man Blue. I understand why people think that, because he's all alone right now. He's basically starting back from zero. Aunt May's gone. His friends are gone. I would assume we finally do meet Gwen in this one, because how much longer are we going to wait until that happens? That's the only real prediction that I have for this film. But well, again, like you said, there's really no point to working titles, but let's just speculate and have something to talk about. I don't know. I mean, I'll see it. Doesn't matter. I'll see it. So
I think the article was interesting because this sort of took the next step, and we're like, well, is this the comic they're adapting? Which gives people something to read. And of course, as fans of comic book movies, I think it's good that we're trying to encourage people to at least go pick up a comic book and maybe read a little bit more about it.
Get a little backstory, sure.
Exactly. Even if that's not what ends up happening in the movie itself, like John said, it makes no sense because they don't even have a Gwen Stacy in this cinematic universe yet. And then Ron's saying, by the way, the movie can be a Spider-Man Blue adaptation, but can have a happy ending. But also, if they do that, they're going to have to probably do that with the MJ character instead. At which point, it could become a whole different story. So
yeah, I just don't do that. Yeah. How about that? Just fucking don't do that. There's like a pantheon of Spider-Man comics that would fit much better. Yeah. I know there were like rumors that Black Cat would be the new love interest, which I think would be infinitely better anyway. Armor Wars, it's the
Don Cheadle, what's the character's name? Why am I forgetting this right now? War Machine TV show. War Machine. It was a TV show. Now I think they're supposedly making a movie out of it instead.
Yeah.
It is based on a comic book, isn't it? I think it's like
there is an Armor Wars comic book storyline, but it heavily involved. I don't think it's gonna be based on
that. Right.
I think it's gonna be like its own thing, like with most, like Captain America: Civil War. It's based on Civil War. Yeah, like 1% of the story, and like they did its own thing. So Infinity War, like 5% of the story, and then it did its own thing. So it's like. They take these names and just essentially do their own things with them. Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, another example of the Marvel adapts these things, right? Like DC adapts, like they're adaptations, and we have talked about it before. They're not meant to literally be like word for word the same thing that we get in the actual comics. It's like the Civil War movie was nothing like the Civil War from the comics, and the same applies to even like Batman. Batman, that's actually a bad example, because they did adapt like a bunch of different shit in that movie. I love the titles you're getting in there.
Oh God, no! Please,
No,
God,
Ron, no, Ron, you
Michael
ruined
Bay
it.
is
You
already
ruined the
doing that
vibe,
shit.
Ron.
We don't need that.
My favorite is Spider-Man Home Skillet. Although that,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't
I don't
mind
have...
that home title. I wouldn't mind that.
Lord.
Yeah, and then Magical Sky Wizard saying, yes, we have known that since Age of Ultron that they don't really actually adapt the exact comic. Like they're gonna like do their own take on it, which is fair. Now, before we finish up, I did have a couple of smaller Marvel items I wanted to get into. We were talking about 3 movies next year coming out in the MCU, and of course Captain America: The Brave New World is the first of them. We have a new Captain America, but we also now have a new Falcon, and then we've got this image now from Empire where you can, for the first time, I think we're getting because in the trailers so far we haven't really seen a ton of Falcon, or at least not with like the face and the character sort of like up front, because Danny Ramirez, of course, from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series, he's now taken on the mantle of the Falcon. So
which
his character is
make
Joaquin
sense
Torres.
to me because Sam Wilson still uses the Falcon wings, so like
right.
It's just like 2 Falcons essentially, so like I don't get it.
It is weird, but you know what though? Like that trailer does definitely make it seem like at the beginning of the movie, Anthony Mackie's Captain America, like Sam Wilson, he's wearing the suit from the end of the TV show because he's wearing the white suit and everything, and that has the wings. But by the end of it, it seems like he's sort of switched over to just the traditional Captain America, gear like you see here, which very much looks like the what Chris Evans wore. As far as if he has the wings or not, I don't know. I feel like Marvel probably would have had to answer that question themselves. They were like, it would be weird if both Captain America and Falcon had the wings, but then again, it could also be like they're a team. So like I guess maybe it's kind of like both Batman and Robin wear a cape doesn't mean they can't do it. Like
but
like,
it's not like they're Cape Man and Cape Boy. It's like.
That's fair.
It's just
I get that though.
It's just like they're basing their entire thing off of like a bird, and then it's like you have Captain America, but he also uses wings, so he's like Captain.
Although you know what, you're right because
America.
That fight with the Red Hulk most likely happens in the 3rd act, and in that sequence in the trailer, he did have the wings, right? Like he does the whole acrobatic move. And I'm okay with that personally. I just really like that we finally got a look at Joaquin Torres, the character played by Danny Ramirez, and what his Falcon looks like. It's more of a down to earth, less comic-y, more military gear.
It looks very soldier-esque.
Yeah, because if you guys remember when they first introduced the character, right, and the character of Falcon in the Winter Soldier, they said that he was a military veteran, and that his Falcon suit was like from like a military program, like that was a very specific thing. And he was like, I might still have one lying around, or like they had to actually go steal the suit back because of course the suit belongs to the military, not Sam Wilson. But it's going to be interesting again. I mean, I like the look of the characters. This looks like it's on an Arleigh Burke destroyer or aircraft
I don't
carrier.
Get the sleeveless thing. Like at least with like Steve Rogers when he's like, wearing the sleeveless suit in Infinity War, it like makes sense. He's bulletproof. He's
Well, is it sleeveless? I mean, what do you mean sleeveless?
Sam Wilson's
like
not bulletproof.
Sleeves.
Why are you like your head's exposed, your arms are exposed?
Yeah, he's got like they're like
cover yourself up, my guy. Like we don't want to see you like, especially if you run into an LA cop, then you're really fucked. So it's like, try to cover yourself up so you can, like be at least kind of bulletproof. I'm just saying.
We are really trying to get canceled today. I'm what is going on?
I just look, hey man, I'm just saying like this is one shot from one scene because in the trailer you clearly do see him wearing a helmet, and I think this movie's so far the trailer promises the cape in the bowl. It does really promise the idea that they're gonna address directly the fact that he's not Steve Rogers. Like literally, Harrison Ford probably says that to him 5,000 times. You're not Steve Rogers. I need whatever. Anyway,
thank you for spelling that out for us, Marvel.
But hopefully that means they will address it directly and do it in a way that kind of helps to legitimize Sam Wilson's Captain America, because it's a big challenge. I don't think we have ever seen any cinematic universe in live action where an iconic character on the level of a Captain America, or maybe like well, you can't really do Superman, but like let's say Batman, has somebody else, another character takes over the mantle, and then they decide to do a whole series of movies with him. The closest we got was, oh, you should use your middle name more often, Robin. It's a fun name. And then like the credits roll, we're done. Like we never got to see the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Batman, but like
I
we're
burst
getting
into
a
tears
sample.
when that happened. Actually, I was like, "That's perfect." Oh
I
my-
know it was so
I
good.
literally, I
Still
was
to
like
this day.
sobbing in the theater. But it's true. I would have liked to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or
Yeah.
Jogo as I call him, get his moment. But oh well.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you know
do
what?
silly things.
Yeah, I would have liked to see that in the DCU instead of the Ben Affleck route. But then again, that is it's firmly behind
Poor
us.
Ben.
What is
Poor
not
Ben. Nobody wants him. Marvel doesn't want him.
No,
DC
look,
doesn't want him. Poor Ben.
I appreciate what Ben Affleck did. I'm just saying in the beginning, my thoughts were, why not just continue that? But it just, the way the DCEU went, it made sense to not kind of combine the two things or mix the flavors. But speaking of what's ahead and not behind us, Fantastic Four: The First Steps. I quickly wanted to get your opinion on this, Liz, because this dropped. The synopsis for the movie dropped late last week. It's the first big, piece of marketing outside of just the poster and the footage that leaked. And it kind of it gives us a lot of insight into potentially what this movie is going to be about. I'll quickly read this out. Set against the vibrant backdrop of a 1960s inspired retro-futuristic world. We know this is a parallel universe that's not the mainline MCU, timeline. If you go by, the sacred timeline rules, this is a different timeline. But also, I think that right there tells us that while it's 1960s inspired, it's not the 1960s. Like it could be the present day in their universe.
Retrofuturism is fucking awesome. So
I love
like that aspect.
Like the Jetsons, right?
Perfectly.
Yeah, totally.
Perfectly for Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And then, of course, they say that it introduces Marvel's first family. They list out the names, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, Ben Grimm, The Thing, as they face their most daunting challenge yet. Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, they must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus, which, speaking of which, Ralph Ineson, I think, most recently just wrapped his filming for the movie. So it looks like he's done with his part. And his enigmatic Herald, Silver Surfer, Julia Garner, I'm really excited to see what she does with the character, because she's only going to be our second live action Silver Surfer and the first female Silver Surfer, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. And then it continues to say here, and if Galactus's plan to devour the entire planet and everyone on it weren't bad enough, it suddenly gets very personal. So
that's so Marvel. It suddenly gets very personal.
But that's a very synopsis thing to say, like a very cheap, cheaply written cliffhanger at the end.
For the revenge this time, it's personal.
It's personal.
But hey, Dan, you did notice that they're heroes, but they do have the strength of a family bond.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Only took us 2.5 hours to get there.
2.5 hours to get there, yeah.
Not quite. 2 hours, 21 minutes.
Wow, I almost forgot that was a thing. Amazing. Wow. That's never, you know what? Keep that forever. That's never going to get old. Take the slap out. Keep that in.
It's totally, well, I think we will need to include that in there. But TC24 was onto it too, John. Didn't anyone tell you not to mess with someone's family?
I swear they're gonna have a family fucking joke in here.
They will need to. They will need to.
Furious. It's
I just can't wait to see when Groot shows up, and then they try to mix up the anyway. Because Vin Diesel voices the Groot. Liz, I wanted to ask you quickly about the synopsis. They do kind of talk about in this synopsis here that they are forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their bond. Because I don't want to say the word. It does imply that they're already kind of the heroes. They've already been through the whatever accident, got them their powers. So this is not really an origin story. Like, what are your thoughts on this? The fact that we're not really getting what we got before.
Well, that's fine with me, because that's all we need to be getting every time they do the Fantastic Four. It's always an origin story. We know who the hell you are. We know how you got here. Let's move along. Let's have something new. The one thing that struck me about this whole thing is that the only thing that fans seem to be able to focus on is that Silver Surfer's a girl. Who gives a shit? I'm so tired of this crap. Who fucking cares? I don't care. Julia Garner's an amazing actress. I'm excited. I'm welcoming her to the MCU. I'm happy she's going to be a part of this now. It's wonderful. Find something else to talk about. It's such, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
I
But-
mean,
myself.
it's like
I-
whatever. Like, I mean, the movie's probably gonna suck anyway, so who gives a fuck?
Well, and that's just exactly that. What they should be concerned about is whether or not we finally get a decent Fantastic Four movie, because we have yet to ever have one of those.
I mean,
So,
no, we did
if
get
it's-
one. It's called The Incredibles.
But I was gonna say,
I will.
this
You know
reads
what? That's a
like
very good
the
point.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, though, is
Yeah.
that this absolutely reads like a description of The Incredibles. So hey, if you want to give us The Incredibles live action form, I'm not gonna be mad at that either. That's one of my favorite
Don't give
Pixar
Disney
films.
Pixar any ideas, because then we will get a live action Incredibles.
You know what? Let's do it. Why not? I love The Incredibles. But again, the fact like fans are focusing on the completely wrong thing with this. So I'm gonna see it. I hope I enjoy it. I don't think that I will, because for some reason they can't seem to get Fantastic Four right. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
And I'm leaving it there. I don't give a shit that Silver Surfer's a girl. I don't care.
I mean,
Move on.
Silver Surfer has been a woman in the comics, I think. Like, I think there
They
has
been
been
It's not like
an
they just pulled this
alternate
out of nowhere, you
version.
moron. Shut up. I can't.
In the alternate continuity, Shalabal, Norrin Rad's lover, who Norrin Rad is Silver Surfer. She has been the herald, the Silver Surfer in the comics. So it's not like totally out of nowhere. It's not like just like absolutely totally out of nowhere. It's like, oh my God. So there is some comic book. I mean, people were like, when She-Hulk came out, they're like, oh, they're making Hulk a woman now. It's like, no, you're just an idiot. So it's like,
Exactly.
so at least there's some precedent. It's not like just totally gender swapping for no reason. At least there's like, all right, as long as they don't like pull the thing where it's like, instead of Norrin Rad, it's Nora Rad. It's just like, just make it Shalabal, and there we go. And
listen,
make it the female character instead of just gender swapping for no reason.
We have Supergirl, we have Batgirl, we had a female Thor. Like, get over yourselves. No one gives a shit. Freaking Captain Marvel was originally a man. Fucking, I can't, gang.
There's been like 17
Find
Captain
other
Marvels, though.
That's
to
what I'm
be
saying.
fair.
Find other shit to care about. Again, what should matter is that this movie is good, and hopefully we get more Fantastic Four films. They have yet to be able to produce a good one. The cast is stellar, but the writing's got to be there. That's what I care about. And again, if we get a knockoff of The Incredibles, I don't give a shit about that either.
You know what? That's good, because then at least we'll get a decent fucking Fantastic Four movie.
That's
finally.
100%.
Like, don't get me wrong.
I hope Frozone shows up.
I think the 2000s Fantastic Four movies, they're not good, but they're good.
They're
like
good for their time.
cheesy fun.
They were
like,
exactly.
Yes.
And I do like the Roger
they're
Corman
campy as
version,
fuck.
but,
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
it just stay away from Fan Four Stick. I haven't seen it, so I can't judge it, but I've just heard that it's bad. So.
It was like the first act was good. The second act was like where things started to go sideways, and by the time you get to the third act, you're like, what the hell is going on in this movie? But as far as this one goes, I mean, look, I'm excited to see what they turn this into, because we don't even know. Here's the thing: people are speculating, is the Doctor Doomsday we're gonna get from the universe of the Fantastic Four. I also want to see how they approach Galactus. We sort of have an idea based on what we saw at San Diego Comic-Con. They're gonna go with a comic accurate design. But hey, look, the cast, like you guys said, is amazing. The movie has a potential to be really good. It will be the first time Marvel does Fantastic Four. It's Marvel's first family, so no pressure. It also happens to be the movie that will, basically push Marvel into Phase 6 of the MCU. So it's got a lot of expectations behind it. It comes out literally 2 weeks after Superman does. So there's a lot of big competition, pressure, just expectations, the weight of expectations, and they have got so many top tier characters, from Silver Surfer to Galactus to the whole Fantastic Four series of cast members. I want to see if they even, what would be really surprising, if they have another Doctor Doom in this, and then people are like really confused. Is like all of a sudden there's two Doctor Dooms, and maybe the one from this universe kind of gets written off somehow, or maybe RDJ gets a cameo in this, because that will be interesting to see play out as well. But
I mean, at this point, we can't really say much more. We need a trailer. We've got to see a trailer, and even
they're
then,
still filming. So
even then, they could fuck with us. The trailer could be incredible, and it could still be a turd. So you don't know until you go see it. Oh my god, you don't know until you see it, and that's the and again, I'll be there, and hopefully I like it, and that's as far as I'm going with it.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I agree. The TC24 saying the MCU wishes they could make a knockoff of The Incredible. It's a good movie. It is a really good movie. Before we finish up, I wanted to quickly skim through a couple of comments I saved up from earlier in the show because you guys have been so great in the chat. Buster Barnes said, "I've been saying for ages, Peacemaker season 1 is canon, bar the Justice League scene. I'm glad Gunn confirmed it."
Aren't you so fucking special, Buster?
You're just brilliant.
Thank you, Captain Obvious,
Very
as we've
good.
all. But that was one of the first comments in the chat, so we hadn't really gotten into anything yet. So fair enough, fair play to Buster Barnes.
Good call out, yeah.
Yeah, good shout. Then Ron, of course, who's still in the chat and he's been watching the whole show, he said John and Tom King need to go out on a date. I don't know, John. Like, do you want to hit up Tom King and see if he's interested?
Might be what you're missing, John. You don't know.
Yeah.
Tom King, if you try to ask me out on a date, you got another thing coming, buddy. All right, so just keep that in mind. I'm just saying, like, my lawyers are telling me I have to say that's a joke.
Again, trying to get canceled tonight, apparently.
John's views are his own and do not reflect the views of the Also Curious podcast. But good. Ron is in the. It's still like he's like saying John Campea said RDJ cameo. I do like to watch the John Campea podcast. The RDJ cameo will make Fantastic Four gross $1 billion. It could. I don't know. I mean, because they're not gonna give it away in a trailer, so like it would be like a word of mouth thing, and I'm sure people will go check it out. But the movie itself still has to be really, really good. Magical Sky Wizard saying gotta buy him dinner first. I mean, hey John, you know what? It is an uphill fight, so you do have to maybe be the one to initiate the contact.
Is our next episode going to be making John's dating profile? Like, what are we doing here, gang?
You know what? That's a good idea. We should do that.
Fan cast John's next date. Oh my god.
Too bad Lenny's not in the chat anymore.
Find a Lenny who's actually interested in men. There you go.
Exactly.
There's my perfect.
And by the way, TC's like, if they don't mess up the new Daredevil show, then he'll start trusting Marvel again. And you know what? They cut the episodes in half. They reshot the whole thing.
The other seasons on Netflix are good. I don't know what you're talking about. We already have a good Daredevil. Shut up.
But yeah, I know. If the new Daredevil show's amazing.
If the new one continues on,
I didn't hate Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones was fine.
Jessica Jones is amazing. Jessica Jones.
It was good. It wasn't my favorite, but it was good.
Carried the first season on his back. That man had to get spinal surgery from carrying that fucking show. But that's just how it is.
Go every time.
Well, hey, reportedly Marvel wants the whole Defenders team back and the cast of characters.
I would hope
we'll see. We'll see. Now, Caleb, of course, had a question for you. I think John specifically. Where's my Condiment? Actually, it's for James Gunn, really. Where's my Condiment King movie? Because James Gunn has been teasing
Where's
us.
My electric car, Bruce?
So, you know what, Caleb, that's a question for James Gunn. I'm sure if you reach out to him, he might answer your question with like an Aquaman meme.
Responding to fans,
or like a mermaid meme,
almost in real time. So go ahead, get on the
get
X,
on it.
Send him a little tweet.
I'm sure it's gonna happen eventually. I just don't think it's a high priority, and it's most likely to be a TV show or like he shows up in somebody else's project. But a movie, that's a bit of a stretch right now, I think. Antonio Baker, who of course is one of our loyal viewers, he's here all the time. And I think he's still in the chat. He said Damian Wayne should be getting an R-rated movie as well as Jason Todd. Of course, Damian Wayne will be in Batman: Brave and the Bold. Jason Todd, I'm not sure. We're not so sure about. We haven't got any confirmation. Isn't Jason Todd going to be in that dynamic duo movie though, John? Like the one that's the animated one?
Yes.
We know that's probably not going to be rated R, and we certainly know that the Batman Brave and the Bold is going to be PG-13. So maybe it's like the next thing that they do with those characters could be rated R. But like certainly what's on the schedule right now most likely is not going to be rated R. But there is some credibility to the idea that those characters deserve a rated R treatment. So maybe down the road they'll do that, and James Gunn clearly is open to the idea. So we'll see. Now Lenny, of course, she wished us the best of luck. I think she was probably going to work. So fair play.
Yeah.
But before she left this comment. She says, "So you guys think Marvel are panicking as they're delaying and re-greenlighting projects?" I don't
No.
think
I wouldn't
that's
say
No.
panicking, just
yeah.
trying to find a stride. I
Yeah,
think
they're just trying to figure it
find
out, right? Yeah, they're trying to
figure it
figure out
out.
their next
That's
move.
I
It's
think
all
so. I don't
good.
think they're
I'm not worried.
panicking. I mean,
No.
remember, Disney,
They're
they're
gonna make money regardless of
gonna
what
make
they
money,
do. They're
and
not panicking. They're all waiting for
and
their next paycheck.
and a friend of mine has
Sure.
said many times, this is kind of true for Apple TV as well. Like, fucking movies for them is a goddamn side business. As long as they don't fuck up Disney World and Disneyland, they can make $15 billion flops in a row and they'll be fine.
Yep.
So they'll be
Well,
okay.
I don't know
They're
if
not panicking.
that's a bit of an exaggeration, but still, I think the point is.
we could have
well
Madam
taken.
Web
hyperbolic.
10 and it's not gonna affect their bottom line 100%.
So
God, please never. But
let's not do that. Let's not do that. I
No.
don't think Dakota Johnson wants to do that. But hey, that was the last of the comments, and that brings us to the end of the show today. And it's been an amazing show. We've been talking here for 2.5 hours, which I think is pretty much the same as last week, except the internet crapped out on us. Hey,
No, just you.
I'm just saying, despite everything, Oz did not get to me. So fuck the penguin. I have survived, and I live to tell the tale. And at one point, John pulled out a knife, and I was like, okay, that just gave me some PTSD from like episode 2 of the Penguin. But whatever. You know what?
that was a letter opener at best. Everybody calm
It was. Yes, fair enough. Still, I'm still dealing with my trauma from the end of that series. So. Fuck the penguin. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Also Curious times DCU Daily times MCU Weekly times Red One Review, and we did so much talking about all the different topics.
A lot of talking. Too much.
A lot of talking. Maybe. We also talked about the fight that almost nobody watched yet 60 million people tuned in with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. So if you guys
we didn't watch.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people didn't actually get to watch, even though they wanted to. But with that said, if you guys joined us on the show live, thank you so much. Thank you for being in the chat. Hit that like button because that really helps us out. And as John is ringing the bell, you should too. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that
bell.
Subscribe button. So that when we are live, we're gonna be back tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily. Thank you to everybody in the chat: Ron, Magical Sky Wizard, TC24, The Watcher. I probably won't get to everybody's name. Kane, Antonio, Silhouetted Animator. We had Fiona in the chat earlier. Lenny, of course, Hunter Iggy. We still don't know what your comment was.
At the beginning.
Buster Bard. Jay Kelly was around. I mean, the chat, I can't even scroll up all the way through the chat. But thank you to everybody, and if anybody whose names we missed, of course, we still love you regardless.
We still thank you, and we still love you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with an episode of DC Daily. We'll be here all week. Liz will be back with us on Friday. John and I are here with you tomorrow. So be sure to tune in. I think we're probably going to do an earlier evening show tomorrow after the late night today. But until then, go out there, watch something in a movie theater, watch it at home, maybe on Netflix, maybe if
just
you missed
not
the
Red
fight.
One. Wait for Gladiator 2.
You know what? That's fair. That's definitely going to be a much better fight to see.
Go see
on the
Venom
big
again.
Screen.
Go see Venom again. Go see Wicked later this week.
Go see Wicked. Or if you'd like, you can tune into the Penguin. Fuck the Penguin. And on that note, we're gonna wrap it up, and we'll see you tomorrow on DC Daily. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.